Show's on, so when you come back, they'll hear us. So you should probably mute. All right, I should tweet that we're live, huh?
Probably.
We can also talk about how we're all doing theory crafting.
Yep.
Yay. I think it's the first time all three of us are in.
I believe so, yeah.
This whole creator program thing. Speaking
Pretty
as a
cool.
creator, pretty cool. I'm a
Speaking
fan.
as a podcaster.
I mean, there are a lot of people that get it. It's kind of just nice that they're adding people. Because it seems like
Yes.
this is not subtractive in any way. It's just like, and that's the thing about theory crafting. The more, like, you're not taking anything away from anyone by adding more people
Right.
into the pool. You're just giving more people
Yeah.
a seat. So,
Yeah.
we'll be able to speak to
It
that.
is interesting because while it is true that the podcasting space is smaller, it's also pretty hard to actually like impact. Like the growth formula is not.
Oh, you mean to like break through?
It's
Yeah,
a generally niche medium.
Yeah.
You are relying on people who, like, the primary appeal of the format is that you don't need to look at something. So, because anytime people can look at something, they usually do. So, it is very good for people that commute and really like. Mostly that's it. So,
Yeah.
as BS return
Or-
to work
or work
initiatives
out and run or whatever,
grow,
yeah.
we
Uh-huh.
grow.
Yeah.
We should theoretically be supporters of RTO, but we're not because we're human beings.
Yeah.
Yes,
Wow.
Sheep, you do enjoy podcasts, and we enjoy you and your podcasts. But yeah, it's a somewhat niche medium, so, you know. But having more people, like, play some games and say, hey, I played with these cards is pretty cool. I don't think it
Yeah.
really hurts anybody.
I don't think we lose much for being not our usernames, you know?
It's fine.
I mean, it would be nice to have usernames, but also, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I don't care. I really don't care. It's fine.
If they asked, would you use an account with your username, I would say yes. But if
Yeah.
they didn't ask, then I would continue to play in Hearthstone.
I don't. Yeah, I could not care less. Like, whatever.
You could.
Just don't call me late for dinner. That's all.
Yeah. I'm hungry. Okay. So we have not a lot of bullet points, but I imagine we'll talk about cards for a while. Edel, you haven't picked your card superlatives quite yet, but I am sure you will.
Oh, right. I forgot that's how we were doing it.
Yep.
Yep.
But also we have
One of them is easy.
We have 4. Oh, what's the one? I'm waiting. Of course. I should have known. It was either going to be that or the Death Knight Legendary spell.
Okay, I will change my one for the next one. Then I'll find something
I
else.
think keeping it the same is a great illustration of the dynamic we have here. So feel free to
Yes,
add a
yeah.
backup, but I think
Yeah.
that keeping it the same is just fine.
Perhaps you're even more scared of it now.
Oh no, that's not possible. Because I already knew you were going to do horrible things with it. So, it's not.
Yeah.
That's not a problem.
This is literally just white rice with soy sauce. It's one of the few things that
that's not
feels
bad.
okay to eat right now.
Are you feeling better?
Relatively, yes.
Hmm.
Slept till 1 today.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's nice. Do we know if the warrior weapon and do we know if the weapon that boosts on things like overload crystals or armor are they each time or the total amount?
Each time.
Okay. So if you
I
gain
think
10
s-
armor, you gain
yeah.
1.
So they, yeah,
Correct.
what they,
Yeah.
yeah.
Outfit Tailor, I do
So,
think,
like-
is underrated Burger Club.
So I think um, some of the balancing they've done for those things has been to start the number higher, right? Like the Paladin one starts at +3/+3.
No, it doesn't. It starts at 1/1. They just
Oh,
they
okay. The image
showed
I
it
saw
in the
was wrong.
video,
Okay.
pre-upgraded.
All right. I thought that was busted then. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, that would be too good.
It's still really good,
It's fine.
Disco
right?
Mall?
If you
Disco
play a
Mall is a
bunch
good
of
card.
1/1s,
Yeah.
like it's because it's any minion. You play 2
I-
minions and that's +3/+3.
But if you look
Synth-
at it in the card library, it starts at +1/+1.
Yeah,
Okay,
they all
that
do.
is a relief because.
Yeah.
But
it's-
the warrior
there
one
is-
start. Wait, the warrior one starts at 2. Yes.
No, they all start at 1. Everything starts at 1.
Okay, warrior one's so bad then.
The warrior one is the same as Deathbite or Blood Razor in function, but like
Yeah.
it is a stat line that I was surprised to see at 4 mana. I still think that there is potential there, but it's warrior like Enrage already has a weapon they want to play. If it boosted
This
per
is supposed
armor,
to be the control warrior tool.
I mean, it can be an Enrage tool too, but at 4 mana, it just doesn't quite line up anymore. So I'm wondering if it gained damage by the total number of armor crystals, the card would be actually good. But I don't think it does that, right? There's no way.
No, that'd be way too good because then you would just play a shield block and have a 6 damage clear. Like, it might still be okay for something controlling if you can swing on 4 and then on 5 you hero power plus play one other armor card, but the fact that you have to do that much work for an excavated evil is pretty rough. Yeah, Quillbore plus hero power gives 2 instances. That's the thing I'm thinking of the most.
Okay, so the way Quillbore works, like it adds and then adds again.
Right.
Okay.
Well, it's like you get the 2 and then you get 2 from the Quillbore. Yeah.
So, fair warning, I just got a text from my boss that all the servers in our data center are down.
Okay.
So, I'm hoping that's not going to affect too much, but yeah. So that's a thing.
I am. So I'm gonna double check this video just to be sure because I want to make sure the warrior thing.
Yeah, they did show play of it, but it did go kind of quick. So,
I'm looking for it.
card I'm scared of. What card am I scared of?
I just want to make sure I have the total information here. Okay, there's the Death Knight card. Paladin, Druid, Priest. I'm hoping Warrior is here towards the end. Nope, earlier. Yeah, I'm just gonna give it a couple minutes while I scrub through this video to see if Steve has to go, and if he does, then we'll figure it out.
I'm not gonna have to go right away.
Okay.
Like, there's nothing I can do while they're down. They might come back up, and then that might be. I might have to scoot midstream, but I don't anticipate that's gonna be soon. So.
Okay.
No, I mean right now, if they're down, they're down. Like I can't do anything while
Yeah,
everything's
you're
down.
not a server engineer.
No. We go to work when this stuff comes back up, but
I don't see footage of the warrior weapon. Unless I missed it.
There definitely was something.
There was something, but all right. Well,
there was they definitely showed the warrior weapon in the thing in like the first half hour. They definitely did.
so we saw gameplay footage.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me look because I'm right around where it's being revealed.
I'm gonna specifically
I got
not
it.
pick Tony here because we already talked about
But you can mention him.
it. Yeah. Oh yeah, I thought about yours, Hat. It's a scary card.
I mean, it's a 2-mana 5/5. I have to do a
Yeah.
lot more work for a 2-mana 5/5 usually.
Yep.
Okay.
Really?
Here it is.
Um,
Yeah, it only gains number of times, not number of crystals. Right. So they
Yeah.
play it, and then so they play it. It starts at 1. They hero power it, and then it went to 2.
Right.
So it is each time you gain armor.
Yeah, I
Not
thought so
how
because
much
I think
armor you
that
gain.
that's how
Yeah.
the overload one works as
Yeah.
well.
But that would be what I would expect, is that because otherwise it scales pretty significantly off of any large armor card.
Yeah.
Not saying that's problematic for Warrior to have a scaling card, but I would be surprised if it worked that way. Okay, so we can clarify. And I will update the rating sheet too, actually.
It's true, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I am ready when you all are to get started.
I'm ready.
All
I'll
right. Let's roll.
probably have these done by the time we get there.
Okay.
The sooner we start, the longer I'll be on the show. So.
All right. Let's go.
All right. I'm recording.
Recording.
3, 2. Wait. All right. Start over. Claps. 3,
Wow, we're
2,
already.
1. 3, 2, 1. Starting the show in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Here for a chat.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend!
Hello and welcome to episode 389 of Coin Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, March 30th, in the evening. From Gadsden, New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Nomergon, Ohio, we have Edelweiss.
Hello.
And from Northern Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
And from where you are a listener, we have you. Thank you so much for being here. Reviewers, thanks for reviewing. Patrons, thank you so much for your support. Live viewers, what's up? And audio listeners, thanks for being the foundation the show was built on. All right. Life and Ladder. Edelweiss, how are you feeling? I saw you were getting some cat and soup therapy.
Yeah, I'm feeling better now. I think I've slept a crazy amount in the last few days. My nephew got a stomach bug, and initially it was just, oh, he's not feeling so great, so he's cranky. And I took care of him until about first nap on Monday. And my sister said, you know what, if he's going to be like this upset the whole day, I'll just take some time off and you can go home. And I was like, all right, sure. And he threw up that night.
Mm.
And then I came in the morning the next day, and she said, you know, oh, sorry that you drove out here, but actually he threw up, and then over the night we got sick, so you should probably go.
No, no.
Wow.
But it was too late. I think it was already incubating at that point. And I had probably gotten sick from that few hours on Monday. And over the course of the day, I was like, okay, I'm okay. And then I was kind of mediocre by the end of Tuesday. And over the night, I had chills, and I woke up, and I don't know if there's that feeling when like you want to hurl, but there's nothing there. So I like drank water, it came back up. Went back to bed. Couldn't really get to sleep. Drank some more water. It came back up. Went back to bed. And then the soup I had came up. And I had brought a trash can in for this occasion, so no mess, fortunately. But yeah, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely not going into work tomorrow. So I messaged my sister saying, hey, you'll get this when you wake up. But
You did this to me, so I'm not coming in.
yeah. And fortunately, my mom was able to drop off some Gatorade and chicken soup. Wasn't actually able to have chicken soup until the following day. Well, day. Yeah, so I've been doing like white rice and soy sauce, maybe a
boy.
banana, just really mild foods, and trying to stay hydrated. But I have not had the need to throw up anymore, and I'm doing much better now. I'm gonna go into work tomorrow, but it's just that stomach bug thing of they're highly contagious and really mess you up for, a couple of days.
Well, I am sorry to hear about that. And I'm glad you were able to keep the soup down. And have you played any games or just been sitting there?
Well, I played some BGs in bed on the iPad, so I've gotten to 6K, which I didn't expect to happen over the course of the season, but that's, I don't know, kind of where I start hitting more of a wall, I think, is, somewhere between 6 and 7. And because I don't usually play it that much, so I haven't been up there in a while.
Yeah,
And
that's about where I
do
run
more.
into walls too, so nice work.
Yeah.
It's pretty fast.
Yeah, and my mode of play is often to like play to win, not to get to top 4.
Well, yeah,
you
then
go for the
that'll-
high
yeah.
rolls.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. It's just more fun. And been keeping up with dailies. I did find a standard deck that actually was enjoyable, and it was this weird aggro list I just pulled off of Ahirun Twitter.
Oh, the rogue
Which
deck.
what a great resource
Yeah.
for finding occasional off meta deck. And you take a look at it and you're like, oh, it's Thief Rogue, and you're like, wait a minute, this has aggro cards, and there's no Shadow Step, and there's no secrets, and it's basically about getting 1-drops down early, getting a bunch of chip damage in, and then you often Ajara for the ring so that you can like double Wicked Stab or double 6 damage potion or something. I still go for Colossal fair number of times because every once in a while you need a big swing, but it only runs 1 Contraband Stash, and it's this great thing that doesn't feel like at the whims of your high rolls, because it's a lot more about just like winning the board early game and getting value off potions. It runs double sprint, right? So oftentimes it's like you play a pretty fast and loose early game, and then you refill with prep sprint or something. And yeah, number of games that I've just like ended with stab, Sinister Strike. I guess that's how you know it's aggressive, right? Is it's got Sinister Strikes.
It's the
And,
canary in the coal mine.
Shadow
I
is
turned
really
around.
good when you want.
I turned around to see that. Yes.
Shadow is really good when you want more damage. So
The season reset is Saturday. Sounds like I found myself a climbing deck. Well, Steve, how about you doing the opposite of that?
Well, I had a better week than Edel, I think. Is what it sounds like.
I would say so. I would bet that most people did.
Yeah, I mean, I went to PAX this weekend. So I went on Friday and then I took the kids on Sunday. Got to play Rift of the Necrodancer, which is the sequel, and it is very, very good, and I'm very, very excited, and I'm glad that I'm not playing Zelda because this will not distract me from Zelda, or Zelda will not distract me from this. Though I guess Diablo 4 will, but it's if you think of like Dance Dance Revolution, where you have like the things coming down, this is like the main mode. There's like, it's got like a whole Rhythm Heaven vibe, because it's got like different, like there's one level where she's like going to yoga, and then she has to, because like the idea, I think, is that it's like she got out of the crypt, and now this is all like her whole life after getting out of the crypt, right? So she went to yoga, and then you have to like do the poses in time with the other people Yoga Studio, but the main mode is like kind of like a Dance Dance Revolution thing where like the things are coming down from the top and then you have to hit the right button along with it, except instead of like arrows, they're the monsters from Crypt of the Necrodancer. So like, you know, you see the slimes and then the green slime comes down and you clear it, and then the blue slime comes down and then it gets knocked back because it's got 2 hit points. So then you have to hit it on the next beat. Right. So it's not actually showing up there, but you need to know. And then there's like bats that will like go left or right when you hit them, and then like the skeletons whose heads fall off, right? And then they kind of wander around. Like they go back like 3 or 4 beats and then they come back down the same chute. So it's like it's cool how like all the different like if you've played Crypt of the Necrodancer, you know how some of these enemies behave, and then it's kind of cool how they kind of change how they work in the other games. So
I admit
and they've
that
got
I don't know any of these mechanics, but I like how excited you are, and it makes me consider
Yeah.
playing the game.
Yeah, and then there's like a whole punch out boss battle thing where you're like dodging and then you have to like hit them, you know, but it's all like to the beat. It's really good. So and the kids had fun. You know, they got to play a few games and stuff like that, and I got to introduce Hat to Bit Brigade. I bought a shirt, and you know, I was excited. I was messaging the group chat like, "Oh yeah, Bit Brigade's got stuff. I'm gonna get a shirt." Like, what's Bit Brigade? I'm like, "Oh, this is your lucky 10,000 moment." And go watch this video immediately. They're a band that does video game music to NES games. They play it live while somebody speedruns in concert. It is amazing. You should go check it out. And I got a Steam Deck this week, so I've been setting that up. That just came yesterday, so I was setting that up. I started playing The Messenger again.
Good
So
game.
that was one of the games. Yeah, and also a game that Edel, this may be up your alley. A game called This Way Madness Lies, which is from the same developers who did Cthulhu Saves the World and the Penny Arcade RPGs. So
I
it's
don't
like,
know those, but the name sounds up my alley.
so you like JRPGs, right? Sort
yeah,
of.
and
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
shoot, what's the name of the author?
Shakespeare.
Lovecraftian horror.
Yeah. Okay. So this is like Lovecraftian horror, but set in like Shakespearean worlds. And so there's like the deal. I don't know. Like it's weird, right? So there's like the Stratford-on-Avon High Drama Club that stumbles into like these Shakespearean worlds. They're all being taken over by Lovecraftian nightmares. And oh, by the way, they're magical girls, and they have and so they transform into like, you know, Sailor Moon outfits and then go fight all these Lovecraftian horrors. And then
I
there's
am
like
disappointed you didn't tell her about this game sooner, because what is the question here?
This sounds like an anime made by the same people that did like Akiba Maid Wars or something. Just like completely out there premise. So you need to send me a link.
Yeah, I will absolutely do that. And there's like all the Shakespearean people talk in Shakespearean English, but there's like a translation. Like you could hit like right on the D-pad, it translates it to like there's like this whole long soliloquy, and it just translates it to like laters. So it's delightful. So I'm sure you will enjoy it. So that is all to say that I've not been playing very much Hearthstone because I'm still kind of, you know, waiting for the new set to come out.
Because it's March. Because it's March, Steve. Listeners,
and because
you will
the
notice.
Thief Rogues are out in force is the reason.
Yes, and listeners, you will notice every March, especially the last week of March, this is what the conversation turns into, because a nice little break while you wait for the rotation, go over reveal season. There are a lot of cool games out there. You get to hang out with them during March, and then you get to go back in Hearthstone in April, which mirrors my own experience.
Yeah. So I actually put out a guide to Control Priest over the weekend. So you can go read that, and if you want to try to play it before it goes away, though we've got enough Control Priest stuff coming that there'll probably be a different version of it coming, but not this specific version. But I played that on Monday's stream and queued into, no exaggeration, between 60 and 70% rogue. And it was just to the point where I ended up giving up and just playing Unholy Decay. And because I was just like, if I'm just gonna be playing against Thief Rogue after Thief Rogue, like I don't want to be flipping coins against these people. I just want to hit them in the face. Like that's and get through to the next game. So that's what, you know, once again, this meta has turned me into an aggro player. But, you know, I dropped a little bit, but then I played some like Tuesday night and got back up into like 1200. So I don't know how much. I may play a couple more games, but I'm probably not playing too much just because I just don't. I just don't want to deal with the Thief Rogues anymore, and it just seems like a lot of people are playing it for whatever reason. So I saw the VS report saying that more people have finally switched over to Miracle, but it's still like I have the worst luck against them, regardless of how bad the Thief Rogues are. So I just want to be happy right now, and Thief Rogue does not spark joy for me. In case that wasn't already abundantly clear.
I think we did figure that out, but I appreciate your clarification. As for me, well, I had a game against the Thief Rogue today that made me constantly flip back and forth between, is this going to be in the salt mine or is this going to be a highlight game? And turns out it was a highlight game because with Undead Priest, just outside top 100, these are the things that I beat in sequence. This is all one game of Hearthstone. These were all in sequence from the same person. Turn 3, Najak Step and my Reborn Undead. Turn 5, Mountain Bear. Turn 6, Incriminating Psychic. Najak back the Najak Mountain Bear because I stole it from them, then they took it back. And then Frostworm's Fury. I won that game. Because of course, I killed their Najak to restore my Mountain Bear, which was their Mountain Bear because I had silenced mine. So the second Najak, which I knew was coming, I was able to get through that with an Undeath into a Mindseer. There was no point in this game where I felt confident in my victory. And there were many points in this game where I was thinking about both my co-host and Blister Guys talking about it over in Walk to Work of just, how do I articulate why people get frustrated with Thief Rogue sometimes? This stuff. The things that I'm saying right now, these things. I will point out I did win the game. So
did you?
It's kind.
You got a victory. Did you actually win? Was there any winning involved in this experience?
Do you know how satisfying it is to beat double Najak Mountain Bear Frostworm's Fury from a class that none of these cards belong to? It was very satisfying.
I have done it, and usually it's just like, I'm glad that that's over, and now I don't need to do it again until I queue, and inevitably the next one I queue into is also a Thief Rogue.
I would rather face Thieves than Miracles. I faced a couple Miracle Rogues today. Like, today is the first day I really did some queuing because I have to win 5 games. And I played some Wild and, like, okay. But I wanted to play a little bit of Standard because I've been mostly just sitting in my rank right around top 100. I think I'm 103 right now. And I didn't feel like pushing it, and all the decks I like to play this time of year and month are janky. So didn't want to do that either, so I, playing some Outcast, Demon Hunter, and Wild, whatever. But I wanted to queue some Standard today, I did. A couple of Miracle Rogues, lost to those, a couple other people that I beat up. The Thief Rogues were more enjoyable than the Miracle Rogues because I felt like I had a chance, and I won those games, so, that's obviously going to be a little better, but Undead Priest still fun. Generally speaking, I am also on my Hearthstone summer vacation equivalent, just kind of playing whatever crosses my path right now. I was playing a bunch of Marvel Snap yesterday, but Kitty Pryde got disabled because of server crashes, and she was the fun card I was looking forward to, so unfortunate, but I'm sure it'll be back soon. Watching my wife play Resident Evil 4, because that's totally her jam. Horror shooter remakes on the PlayStation are a genre in our house that she engages with highly. So that's been fun to watch. Game looks fun, but also there's a lot of, zombies. So if you're into that sort of thing. I'm not really, but she is, so it's cool. Dredge came out today, which is also a gothic horror game, but it is also a fishing RPG. So it's fishing, except the things you fish up are mutated Lovecraftian monsters. Pretty cool looking, should be fun. I'm going to try it out. I don't know. Just playing whatever is in my catalog until we get Festival of Legends, because I'm very excited for Festival of Legends. Speaking of which, why don't we go talk about Festival of Legends? Like, how about now? Now is good.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
Hey, Festival of Legends. Card festivities. Pre-release festivities. We have so much information. First of all, we have a release date. Surprise, it is Tuesday, April 11th, the date that was very clearly obvious. But they didn't change it. So that's good. So, as a reminder, you cannot buy pre-order bundles during the first week that was only one time and they stopped doing it, I would guess that it had an impact on sales because that is the only reason why they would immediately stop doing something the next expansion. But I don't know for sure. I'm just speculating, but you can't do that. So if you want to buy the pre-order, then buy it before the set comes out. So theory crafting for Americas and Europe and Mediterranean, it is Wednesday the 5th. Either 12 to 6 Eastern or 6 to 12 Eastern. And for APAC, it is the following day, April 6th, is when they have their stream period. And it seems like there are a bunch more invites going out because this creator program thing is pretty cool. And I think we can say now all three of us will be doing theory crafting in some way. Hooray! Woo!
Hey.
We did it!
Where's the there we go.
We have a bumper. We're content creators. That's why
Okay.
we get to do this. So, very exciting. I know that I'll be during my usual 12 to 6 time slot with Joss from TAC making an appearance over there because represented as TAC. But Coin Concede also in the creator program because my fine co-hosts here are fine creators. And they're going to go create some content by playing some theory crafted lists. I look forward to Steve playing Priest and Edelweiss playing the other classes.
Well, I've been soliciting from some other people who did not get into the theory crafting, so I might play some Hunter and some Warlock. Just saying.
Okay.
You can infer from that what you will.
Should we all pick different classes that we deep dive in? Is that what we should?
You cannot contain me. I am going to play 11 classes. You two can divide up what you want. And I am happy for Sidisi and Man at Arms.
I've also decided that I'm going to try to make a menagerie warrior work out of spite at this point. So.
I have a deck list already.
I can work on that.
I have a deck list already that looks like it's a 4-set meta deck list that looks like Rush Warrior from Barons, but people might forget that we're going to a 4-set meta. And yes, while Frostworm Syria might not be the most fun thing, Snowfall Guardian and Voyage wasn't either, and we dealt with that too. So just life will go on, and we will play warrior cards on curve, and it will...
Oh, that's not what I'm doing, Hat. I'm reliving the salad days of N'Zoth Taunt Warrior is what I'm doing.
See?
Wait, it's going to be not our usernames because we're press.
Yep.
So people won't know if I try and do the pirate swap decks thing.
Oh God!
Control Warrior.
Don't do that to people at all. Don't
people
don't
are
be that person.
People are going to expect Tony Warrior during this period. I'm expecting it. It's a thing that people want to try and see. So I would be really surprised to not run into it multiple times. Man, I really actually hope, even though I don't want that deck to be good, Warrior Dominance during Theory Crafting would be the funniest timeline.
Hilarious.
Oh my God.
It would be the best.
And I can't wait
Except
for people...
it would be not like this.
But people would beg for a Warrior nerf and be like, bruh, where were you yesterday? Anyways, I'm not going to say I hope that happens, but I'm going to say it would be amusing. I would be amused.
Yes.
So, but okay. And it seems that, generally speaking, there are a lot more invites going out, not just to content creators, but to other forms of content. And there are 2 different types of invites. There are the content ones and the press ones. It's unclear exactly how they're going to work, but it doesn't really hurt anything to have more people play. It doesn't really take anything away if podcasters or writers or whatever get to play. And many press people have been playing for years. They don't stream it, they don't advertise it, they just play so they can write their articles.
Yeah.
Adding people doesn't seem to take anything away from anyone else, and it seems like they're going for a let people in as opposed to push people out approach, which is aligned pretty closely with the creator program as it was outlined. I know they didn't get everyone, but I'm pretty happy that both of you get to do this.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, I would have been perfectly okay if it was even if it was like us co-oping on this channel rather than on our own individual ones. But you know, it was a nice surprise for sure.
So we can cover even more things because we
Yeah.
all have very different ways that we like to play.
Yeah.
So each of us getting to do our own thing. I kind of previously did my best to just like make a bunch of things for Hat to try.
Yeah.
And then there was the one time where I got in during our more ambiguous creator times, and I got in as I guess just general content rather than press, right? So I got some of the promotion, and so like that's a thing that's different for us is we won't be one of the like here's a picture and name
Yeah.
kind of things in their announcement of the theory crafting. Will be the like unknown usernames that kind of fill the pool for people to play against. But we still get to do it, and that's
it doesn't-
cool.
It's fine. I mean, we get to talk about it. We all get to talk about it intelligently on the podcast the next day, right?
Yeah, which is the whole point.
Which is kind of been like a challenge, when we've done this the last couple times, because it's basically been, it's been Hat Story Time, which is great. I love Hat Story Time, but I also would like to, participate in Hat Story Time. So we get to do that, which is great.
Well, and previously it was what we're going to do today, our card superlatives,
Yeah.
was some people saying predictions and then Hat saying what he got to play with. Now we get to just do all of our predictions, and then we all get to play with the stuff, and we'll just talk about it next week.
And then we don't have to figure out what to do for next week's show, because we can just talk about all the cool things that we did
Exactly.
for like an hour. So
Level playing fields are cool.
Yeah.
And you all are rad, and I'm glad you get to do the cool thing.
Yeah.
So, that's one of the things that's happening. There will be Twitch drops, by the way. So tune in, get some packs. And this is a much larger period, unlike the previous 2 times where they've had Twitch drops for like 25 minutes. And I feel bad for people like Blister Guy who are asleep, but they're working on it. In addition, there is also Festival of Legends live-ish on the official Hearthstone Twitch channel. There are drops, and there are each of the 11 classes performing an animated musical set in their genre. This sounds so... I guess the kids would say cringe, but it sounds definitely in the anime cringe category. I'm kind of looking forward to it.
it's Crab Jam. It's going to be Crab Jam, but like turned up to 11.
I imagine some of these will be like questionable, but also I imagine that the camp is part of the appeal. I don't know. It's fun. It's a fun thing.
Yeah.
So
I think that'll be
whatever.
fun. I'm
we
curious how long each will be, because animation can be challenging.
Well, it's 2.5 hours, so divide that by 11.
Oh,
2.5 hours
okay.
twice. 2 days.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
wow.
presumably I would presume it's the same set, right? I guess maybe not.
I don't know. We'll find out. I am limited on information on the musical Hearthstone bit, so you know what? If this sounds like something you want to do, you probably know that already. Just go ahead and watch it, and if it doesn't, then just leave your browser open for some packs. 1 pack, I guess. There are also 120 Mega Bundle pre-purchase codes will be given away across both days, so if you want to go hunt for Mega Bundles, that is the way to do it. Chill and chat. I'm sure they'll be thrown out there. In addition, pre-release weekend, the usual thing. You can register for a fireside, open your packs early if you want to do that. Only works on festival packs. I have no idea how the rerolls function. Last time they didn't work, but then they made them work later. But reroll functionality should mitigate any question about what do I open sooner. The only thing that you need to know, do not open standard packs if you want cards from the new set, because they are not yet in standard. Do not open wild packs because they are not yet in wild. You cannot open dynamic packs and get cards that are not currently legal, because they will only give you cards that you can play with the second you open them.
Don't open class packs either, because class packs obey the
same
same
thing.
rules as standard packs. Yeah.
Yep. Anything that you can open in a pack outside of your pre-release packs specifically marked are only cards that you can play with when you open them, and you can't play with these cards yet. So do not open any pack that is dynamically generated, any class packs, any standard packs, any wild packs, any anything. Only the festival packs. Okay. That's the pre-release stuff. What else we got here? We also have me not setting this up correctly, maybe? Nope, it's just not swapping over. There's a new smart deck builder. Hold on. I'm gonna just do this real quick. Alright. There is also an update to the Smart Deck Builder. Complete my deck. It's just Death Knight got a little better. So runes are still something that need to be worked on, but it does know about runes that are actually in use. So if you want to auto build Unholy, throw in Marrowgar first, and it'll only get you good Unholy cards. If you throw in Frost from Fury first, you'll only get good Frost cards. So just add a couple cards first to seed to make sure you fill out the runes. It doesn't know what you pick at the top, but it knows about the cards in it. It's better with Death Knight. I believe also it fixed some Renathal issues. Nope, never mind. They know about Renathal and ETC issues. Not resolved quite yet, but Death Knight got a little better. Okay. And then there is actually a somewhat significant mechanic change. And I will say, I didn't make this happen, but I did ask a question about it and then get a reply, and then the reply was deleted, and then they changed the rules the next day. So, like...
You really need to make sure that you're using this power for good and not for evil hat, because
I'm pretty sure this is for good, because I'm pretty sure this is a Stealer of Souls nerf. So, you're welcome. So, what's going to change here is that the way things work, if you are immune and things cost health, your hero's health will still be spent when playing a health cost card, even if your hero has immune or divine shield. It also no longer counts as taking damage. It is a cost that you pay. Magic players are like, finally. Hearthstone players are like, what? So, if something has a health cost, you have to give the game your health. You have to pay the cost. As opposed to take a bunch of damage then prevent it if you have a thing. No, it's not take damage, it's pay health, so it makes you pay the health. So, I am guessing that with Demon Seed and Stealer of Souls rotating, and those bans needing a solution, that this is kind of specific timing now, don't you think? It also means if your hero has a Divine Shield with a new Paladin spell, and you play a Blood Crusader, which makes the next minion you play cost health instead of mana, you will still take the 7 damage from the Countess, even if you have a Divine Shield, because it's not damage, it's a cost you're paying with life. You give the game 7 life, and it gives you a Countess. Follow? Y'all follow me?
Okay, but what about the ones that don't say it as a cost, right? So you've got
Nothing changes.
So the other 2 health cost cards in Paladin.
The ones that do damage to you when you as part
Those
of
aren't
the
health
battle
cost.
cry
Yeah, it's damage.
are different.
Okay.
Damage is the same. It is only when it says pay health.
It's when it changes the mana cost, that little blood droplet.
Gotcha.
Correct. Yep. Which also means it is a tremendous nerf to one of my favorite tavern brawls, the Blood Magic Tavern Brawl, because you can no longer
Yes.
play Demon Hunter and go immune and then play your entire deck. You can still play Druid because their mechanism of being immune is just like gain all the armor back and then play Celestial Alignment and be broken. So that'll still work fine, but being immune no longer protects
does it hit the armor or does it hit the health, I guess?
I don't know. I don't know, actually. That's really interesting now that you mention it, because it doesn't say pay armor, and armor prevents damage
Right.
taken. It says pay health. You might be right. Maybe they broke that Tavern Brawl, which, RIP Blood Magic, but if it's for Stealer, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so this is a significant change. Do not give yourself Divine Shield and then try and pay life and save it and be surprised when you can't. Also, there is an important note. Mitchell from the BG's team said this does not apply to BGs. So that minion that you pay health for, the 3-star minion, if you were immune, you won't take damage to BGs. So that means it is a core rule difference between BGs and Constructed, which I'm sure that everyone will love and understand and find intuitive. Leeching Fellhound. Thank you, Jay Carrick.
This is why we keep Battlegrounds experts in chat to help us with the names of the BG's cards that we can't remember.
So, it's somewhat significant.
I mean, people are going to die, and it's going to end up on Trollden. Is ultimately what's going to happen, and that will be delightful. Well, I mean, I guess not for them, but
Yeah, I mean, someone's gonna be delighted. What else? That's really it as far as like news goes. I mean, we had the giant stream today, the card reveal stream. Did either of you get to watch that? I didn't catch a lot of time of it. And
I saw
also,
the first half hour of it.
it was not gameplay. Usually we just have like the set lead and a content creator playing some games against Jockey. And this time it was Cora and Leo on the couch with Regis. And it's enjoyable enough to see these people talking to each other. And we've had this format before, like Kibler with Ashes did the same thing, among others. But it was definitely not what I was expecting. And also, I know they know about it. I know it can't be fixed now. Regis's mic quality was bad. It's not like he brought his own mic. It was mic'd up by the studio team, but it didn't sound very good.
I mean, he was saying that they grabbed him in off the street, so maybe he brought his own mic with him off the street.
Apparently, it was a last-minute change to do it this way, but I do think that ultimately, probably best to do it this way because you get a little more in-depth talk about the cards, and the gameplay always felt a little like, okay, but show me the cards, right? Like, because it's very like, oh, they're only showing some new cards to specifically like hit them at certain moments. It just felt like a really slow progression, whereas this was more like you get to see the cards, ones where it matters. They show like gameplay footage still, and then they talk about it. And I just think the pacing was much better, and the theory crafting streams are like exist for people to see gameplay. So leave the gameplay to the theory crafting streams, and then have this last reveal give a little more context and discussion. And it was almost like having a Hearthside chat, and then Regis was there like live reacting to it, and then they get to respond to Regis's reactions. I don't know, that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah. It was different. I mean, it wasn't that much worse than it wasn't that much different than like when they did like the early reveal streams, right? So it's like the ones that were early in the cycle when we hadn't seen most of the cards and they couldn't show us a game because they just didn't have most of the cards there.
Yeah, Day9 and Peter Whalen sitting there feeding Snowflake Penguins to Swamp King Dread.
Right, exactly. So I mean, it was good. I think that it's it's good for them to be getting back to that format again at all. It's been kind of a while since we've had those kinds of reveal videos, period. I think the only problem is that, it kind of prevented them from, they kind of had to leave something out of each class in order to save it for the reveal video, right? So it's like, we couldn't really, like, the approach for the last set was kind of like, well, we'll show you all the cards for the class all at once, and then you can go ahead and build a deck. And you couldn't really do that with any of the classes this time because there was always like 1 or 2 cards that was left for this reveal video for each class. So you kind of had to wait until you got everything. I mean, it's fine. We've got like a week and a half to theory craft decks. But
plenty of time, but there were multiple roadblocks where like it just felt like I wanted to go build a deck, and then I'm like, I'm not going to bother right now. Right? Like, yeah. So I would like it if that was adjusted a little bit. And still, the message I want to put out, this is still so much better than even 2 expansions ago when we're getting card by card or whatever. Package reveals are great. Neutrals First is fantastic. But I think March of the Lich King just happened to be the best reveal they've ever done, and we were totally spoiled by it. And this one had a lot more moving parts because it's also rotation. March of the Lich King was not. Right. But yeah, Steve, I agree 100% with you that waiting for 1 card per set just felt kind of like, I probably could build right now, but what if I feel dumb?
Right. What if that's the Rockdalar to the To My Side, right? Like, what if it's the payoff for this package that seems underwhelming?
And when it wasn't, when the last card we were waiting for didn't even come close to fitting in what we thought it would, then that is a different kind of reaction of like, why did I wait for this? So, again, I still prefer this process to anything we've had before, but there were a couple rough edges that made it a little bit less exciting than March of the Lich King, because March of the Lich King was so good, and was such a giant leap forward. But still, video is fine. And I'm not thirsting for gameplay videos. I actually think it makes a lot of sense to leave that to the theory crafting streams, because then if you want to see the cards played, you go watch people play with the cards. But as opposed to curated Blizzard ones. And there have been a few of those curated Blizzard ones. Like, I remember the Descent of Dragons one, where we were worried about Galakron Shaman before, and then they're like, oh yeah, by the way, here is Corrupted Elementalist and Invocation. And we're like, oh, so this deck is broken. It was. It was powerful. Anyways. So, that's it for base news. We do have a little bit more bittersweet tournament news. Let's go talk about it.
It's the grand tournament!
So another week, another competitive Hearthstone twit longer. But this week it is so Derek Brown, one of the casters for Asia Pac Grandmasters and for the Masters Tours, has announced that he is retiring from casting and he's moving on to a new job outside of the industry. Not really a super big surprise given all of the uncertainty around competitive Hearthstone and the scaling back of casted tournaments, and not even really any second level tournaments that are availabilities to cast that have been filling in the gaps. So best of luck to him. Also happy birthday, because apparently his birthday is today also. So happy birthday, and hopefully the change is good.
Yeah. Darok was one of the more recent casters, I think, at it, but it's still multiple years in the game. And just an entertaining individual, and the memer king. TJ and Admirable started that train, but Darok rode it all the way down the track. Just so good at meming. And
the pairing of Derek and Gia for all the APAC
so
stuff was just so fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So gonna miss him, but also what did we expect? Right? What can you do? When they cancel all the events, and the people that work the events are gonna be like, hey, see ya. So there will still be a few events, will still be some on contract, but it just doesn't seem like a sustainable, reliable source of income anymore. So I am unsurprised to hear a lot of people moving on.
Yeah, it's kind of like you can only do it if you don't need it.
Yeah.
Right.
Basically, right? Well, and that's all the tournament news we have, because, no tournaments. That's why he's doing it. It all fits.
There should be one soon-ish, right? After this expansion, or no?
The Solari Invitational will be in mid-April, I think. But I mean, we should get a Masters Tour at some point.
Right. I thought it was 3 months of ladder qualification, and then there was something.
I think it's going to be May. I think
May. Okay.
I think that January, February, March feed into the Spring Masters Tour, which would be in May. I think if I'm remembering that correctly, but they haven't really said anything about it. So they might be hoping we forgot about it, possibly. But I think it's going to be in May that they're going to have the Masters Tour, and then we'll get to talk about that then.
Yeah.
Yep.
The fact that there's no word yet kind of suggests that it'll be later.
Yeah. Not now.
And that's it for tournaments, so let's go talk about cards.
So we are going to do our usual card superlatives. And fortunately, we're all on the same playing field, like we mentioned earlier. So these are going to be card we can't wait to play with, card we're scared of, card we want to be good but isn't, a card we think is over or underrated, and card we don't understand. So, yeah, why don't you kick us off here, Hat, with your rogue pick?
I mean, who was surprised? So the card I most want to play with is Rhyme Spinner, 3 mana, 1/3, rush, combo, gain +1/+1 for each other combo card you've played this game. So it seems like each class generally got like one deck that is clearly a thing they want you to do, and then a bunch of other cards that might fit together, might not, might work with old stuff, might work with new stuff, you know. But there's at least one deck per archetype, or per class. And the Rogue one is the Rhyme Spinner deck. They want you to play cheap combo minions. They want you to play all the bounce spells, and they want you to put Rhyme Spinner in the middle of it all, so that it is constantly bouncing around and making big breakdance copies and whatever, and it is really, really dependent on this minion to give you the stats, because the deck is not going to play a lot of minions, but this card is a lot of numbers, hopefully pretty quickly. So, I don't know how good the deck's going to be. The comparison that I'm drawing in my head is SI7 Quest Rogue from Stormwind. That is where I hope this deck lands, of solid, fun, clear to play, does a lot of like bouncing in board-based minion stuff, and doesn't play Draka. Because I understand that if I want to win early on in the Festival of Legends meta, I take Miracle Rogue, I put in Cult Neophyte, and I go to ladder, and it's fine. But I don't really want to do that. So I'm going to play with Rhyme Spinner, at least in Theory Crafting in day one instead, and I expect it to be fun. I don't know how good it'll be. I don't care. This is what I want Rogue to do. I get to play Eviscerate in this deck. Very happy about that. Shadow of Demise, hell of a card. And you get to play a lot of good cards here, but also I'm not quite sure how it's built yet, and I'm not quite sure how it'll do, and I imagine there'll be some clear weak points. So yeah. Who's next? I don't have the show notes open here. So, Edelweiss, why don't you tell us about what you're excited about? And we're not going to go over last expansion too closely, because we kind of did that already a couple weeks ago with the Goddard Goofed It section. But I think the card that you're excited about is on brand.
Yeah. Previously I had said how excited I was to do the arcane stuff in Mage. Well, this happens to be arcane, but that's not why I'm going for it. My card I'm most excited for is Light Show, because the way that they have introduced this for Mage is just so excellent. I love all of the themes in terms of rewind and stuff. So Light Show is 3 mana arcane spell. I don't know how relevant that will be, but that it deals 2 damage fired at random enemies, and it shoots 1 more beam for each Light Show you've cast this game. So
each of the beams does 2.
Right, yeah. So
Yep.
it shoots 2 beams that deal 2, then 3, and it just keeps going up and up. And with Rewind, which lets you discover a spell that you've already cast this game for 2 mana. And there's another one where you draw 3 spells, and if it's Finale, you discover a copy of one.
That card's crazy. Card is
It's,
crazy.
it's nuts. You kind of have to play it on 4, or it'll be a little tricky to get the Finale. But I've built a very focused deck around, targeted draw to get the Light Show, and also if you do it with that, then you get the extra copies, and you'll just play a bunch of Light Shows. And hey, if you're generating extra Light Shows, well, then Ramath has your back for replaying all of your generated cards, and Light Show is not targeted. So Ramath and not Millhouse Manastorm is the big Finale for this deck. So very excited to give that Mage deck a try. We'll see how it pans out. There's a few things like you still run Aegwynn, because spell damage with Light Show is just the nuts, right? It adds not just 2, but 2 to each beam. So each of those dealing 4 damage will be pretty disgusting. And then you've also got the Soloist, which gives you 2 things that give +2 spell damage. So there are some ways to have a pretty crazy Light Show pop-off turn. And I think it has a lot more promise than the arcane stuff did before.
Yeah.
This is gross.
Steve, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. I think I caught a little what Edel had after she was talking about that. So
It's, I mean, this sounds really fun to me. Of just like, there's a bunch of scaling stuff in the set that where they try to figure out clever ways for things to get better over time. I actually really love the Warlock fatigue cards. Like, I think those are great examples of
Oh, yeah.
a way to dynamically increase both cost and effect. But Light Show was just, it rewards you for doing, like, it's kind of random generation, but kind of also really clear about what you're going to do with it. It's not quite Ignite. It's like if Discover made Ignite better. Then you're kind of just doing that. And Rewind is a card that was a 2-mana spell that lets you replay a spell you've played this game. That's
It doesn't play it for you, but you
Yeah.
get a copy. So it
Oh,
is
so it's-
slow.
you have to go get it.
But-
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's fine. Like Light Show only costs 3. You probably want to be spending mana to be able to get to Finale or other stuff, right? So it's not the worst thing in the world if you have to spend that mana if it helps to get you to Finale the volume up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
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 Looks fun. Steve, I know you don't love this, but what do you love?
Well, if we're gonna stay on brand, right? Then it's no surprise that I'm excited to play with Love Everlasting. So this is the legendary spell for Priest, 3 mana holy spell. Your first spell each turn costs 2 less, and it lasts until you don't play a spell on your turn. So I haven't seen this in action. I assume it's like, like an aura, like a like the things that
It's
like
quest.
the sigils that like the sigils that that Demon Hunter has, right? Where it just kind of shows you the thing over your. I mean, I guess it looks like a quest. It might look like a quest too, but it's probably going to be
Yeah.
something over your hero power.
It's
Your
it's
hero portrait.
probably closest to the objectives from Alterac that are rotating, except it tells you if it's active or not, like if you have to refresh it. But quest, objective, whatever you want to call it, it'll sit there, so you can't stack these because you only have one there. So don't worry about School Teacher. And by the way, people have been asking this a lot.
School teacher's fine because then you get to let it drop and then be able to replay it, right?
Sure, but you can't stack it. The not stacking
Yeah.
is really, really
Yeah,
important. And
that it's not gonna get silly. It's not gonna get like Relic of Dimensions level discounts, but but I mean,
And for people
this
asking, by
is-
the way, I'm just going to say as an interlude here, you can discover and generate every single card in the set except the Rogue Legendary spell and the DK one. Every other card is fine. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. So it's a really flexible card in Priest. It's good against if you are against an aggressive deck, this is going to let you curve into a Light Bomb, for example, on 4, which is something that you might want to do. It'll let you Whirlpool on 6, assuming that you can keep the spells going. And if you're in a slower matchup, well, one way that you can keep the spells going is by playing Sister Svalna, and then you always have a spell to start every turn.
Yep.
So you get to start every turn with a 1-mana Discover, get a Shadow spell, and then take your turn. And that's never going to drop as long as somebody doesn't rip the Vision of Darkness out of your hand. So, I mean, it's one card. It's okay to let it drop in an aggressive matchup because by the time that it drops, you've probably stabilized. And then you can just go ahead and pay the mana for it. It's not the end of the world. And in a slow matchup, like, just hold it till you have Svalna. And then just, because Svalna is in Svalna Priest is really good when the visions are free. It's great. When you're paying 3 mana, it makes the rest of your turn pretty awkward. And like I found that it just kind of like I moved it into ETC and she just kind of sits in ETC a lot of the time. Like even in matchups where I theoretically should take her, I end up pulling Theatar out anyway because it's just so slow. But if you can do that for 1 mana every turn, now we're cooking with fire. So, and like the other pre-spells that we got, I'm not going to go through all of them in the superlatives because I want to talk about some of the other classes too. But like the one we saw today, like Harmonic Pop, 6 mana holy spell, deal 3 damage to all enemies and summon a 6/6, or deal 6 damage to all enemies and summon a 3/3. Like,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and Fight Over Me too is just like, which is the 4 mana shadow spell. Choose 2 enemy minions. They fight. Add copies of any that die to your hand. I mean, I don't even care about the last part. Just like having its targeted this area.
I thought about making that my card I'm scared of because it is quite powerful.
And the art is just perfectly on brand too. It's great.
It's worse
And
than
yes.
Hysteria, but there will be circumstances where you make two equally sized minions bonk into each other and get both of them, and that's
Yeah.
going to be somewhat spooky. It's also probably for the best that Venomous Scorpid is rotating, because if your opponent had Venomous Scorpid and anything,
Yep.
you know, quite powerful, and really, like, not that bad with Nogglings here either. You can just go boop a Noggling if you really want to.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, there are a lot of like little Battlecry minions that you might just want, right? So it's a pretty flexible card too, and like Shadow Core Distort, give a mana minion -5/-5 is 0 attack, destroy it. So if either of the numbers go to 0, get rid of it. Love it. Perfect. Happy to play it. Very happy priest main.
The Priest cards, I think, are interesting. I know there is some skepticism around Overheal Priest.
Yeah.
I'm going to try it. I do think
I'm
that
planning to try it too. Yeah.
I understand the skepticism, but also people are skeptical around minion-based priests, and then also don't play them even when they're good, with
Yeah.
the possible exception of Undead Priest. But even then, that's not even that minion-based. Like, you have 7 Undeads and then a bunch of damage. So, it's more of a damage deck than a minion deck. We'll see. It's possible that the brand new mechanic they introduced will need a little bit of tuning and support, but I am excited to at least try it.
Yep. And pro tip, if you're playing that deck, remember that Sun Fury Clergy exists, which is a card that exists right now, and
Oh,
that is a
yes.
card you probably want to have in your Overheal deck.
Yeah. Restores 3 health to all friendly characters, or 6 if it's mana thirsted. So.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, there are a couple... There's also... Wait, hold on. Let me look up this card. In Throne of the Tides, there was a weird Priest Naga. Herald of Light.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 3 mana, 3/4 Naga, Battlecry. If you've cast a holy spell while holding this, restores 6 health to all friendly characters. 6! 6 is a lot! That's a big number! So imagine if you're able to Heartthrob, and then next turn you Flash Heal it, and then Herald of Light. That's a lot of healing. That's a lot of stuff. That's a 5-drop and
I'd
a
buy that
6-drop.
for $1. Yeah.
So, yeah. But Steve, what are you scared of?
Well, I originally said Light Show, but we've already covered that, and I don't want to go back there. So my second choice is Halveria Darkraven, which is the Demon Hunter legendary. 4 mana 4/3 rush. After a friendly rush minion attacks, give your minions +1 attack. So Demon Hunter has a lot of ways to make a lot of little rush minions. And it's got a whole rush package in this set as well, with like security and rush the stage, snake bite. Like, they've got a lot of ways to get rush minions on board. And then any of the minions that started on the board don't have rush, they go face. So this can be a really, really scary way to both clear through whatever taunts are in the way, and then make way for those minions, or, you know, like a Kane Sunfury or whatever, to just hit the opponent in the face for lethal. So it's a card that I haven't seen a lot of people talking about too much, but I feel like there's something there possibly, and it feels a little spooky. It feels like somebody's gonna crack it.
I'm definitely going to try this card out, because I like the idea of it being kind of a Rotgill sort of thing. The disadvantage here is that you're pretty likely to have minions on board already, or at least you need to if you want to get anything out of the damage boost. Like, you have to go face with the minions you have in play. But the upside here is that as your rush minions that you generate die, you can keep playing more. It's not only the minions that are on the board. It's not a spray paint marking. Like, you can play Fierce Outsider into Security, into whatever, and then just boop, 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 and get your minions +4, +5. If you only have 2 minions in play, that's still 10 damage if you're able to do Fierce Outrider, Security, and Halveria herself. It is kind of an awkward cost, so this is definitely not something you just play on turn 4 most of the time. She's just going to die. But it is the sort of thing where if you can get 2 buffs out of her on a decently sized board, or 3 or 4 on a smaller board, you're still pretty happy. The question is how often that's happening. Illidari Studies helps a lot here with security, because you can get a lot of rushers very cheaply. If you have previously held a security in the left side of your hand, you can Illidari Studies, and then the following turn, Halvaria Security and get a lot of buff. Security, it's, for those who don't remember, it's the 2-mana spell, summon to 1/1, Illidar with Rush, and then if it's Outcast, you get 3 instead of 2. So you can cast that card for 1 mana along with Halvaria. Like, that's +4 damage to anything in play.
Can I offer something slightly more terrifying, given that this is the class that runs Relic of Dimensions?
What are you going to do?
Mishmash Mosher
Oh.
is an 8-mana 3/10 undead with Rush that says after this attacks, gain +1 attack and attack a random enemy minion. So that clears everything, and then your Halvaria or whatever other minions you have go face for a gazillion. It might be optimistic. I'm in full-on Magical Christmas land, but it seems like the thing that's outrageous enough to at least try.
Yeah, I think of this as more of the threat is a lot of the card's worth. If people just know that this is around and that any rush minion that sticks for a Demon Hunter is a piranha, right? When a shaman had played Schooling, particularly 2 Schoolings, they're like, oh gosh, I can't leave these in play because then they'll play the other 3 and I'm going to take a lot of damage. So if just any rush minion in Demon Hunter has this threat of, well, what if they have Halvaria plus like more rushers, then they'll use those rushers to kill my taunt or other stuff and get to go face with the rush minions that are in play. It becomes this thing of like, okay, well, do I have to clear? Can I wait for more value? Like, what are the risks? It just makes those choices a lot harder.
Yeah, you're not going to feel safe behind a taunt against Demon Hunter ever.
Right, yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't anyway because of Kayn, right? Because Kayn being
Sure.
back in Standard, but even more so.
Yeah.
It is also interesting to note Kayn doesn't proc this because he does not have Rush. He has Charge.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
he can benefit from the damage, right?
He can.
So
Yeah.
again, if we're in Relic of Dimensions land, you could throw a Kayn in this whole. It's not unreasonable to get enough discounts that you can throw Kayn into this discount into this combo and then just have the Kayn go face with all the damage that you're getting.
So I really hope this is a card to be scared of because that means the meta is great. Because if this card is something that's really scary, that means there are a lot of rush minions going back and forth. Though, Edel, you picked a card that I actually was going to put in my next section because I want this to be good. I'm not sure it is, but it is probably my favorite flavor design of this expansion. Tell us
my
about
goodness.
Symphony of Sins.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 on flavor. So it is a 6-mana legendary spell for Warlock. Now, legendary is a big deal, but you discover a movement. The symphony is built out of movements, and play it, and then the other 6 get shuffled into your deck. So
They're the 7
since
deadly
it-
sins, by the way.
Indeed.
Um,
Although they renamed one of them, rather than lust, it's desire. But sure.
It seems kind of questionable that lust is only okay in this game when it's for blood, because you can have a bloodlust, but you can't have a regular lust. I just seems incongruous to me. I don't know.
Sure.
But I will quickly run through the 7 effects. But for the card rating spreadsheet, I just plopped a link to Hearthstone top decks in here so people can see them all. There are 7 different effects. Remove the top 6 cards from opponent's deck. Draw your highest cost minion, reduce its cost by 6. Deal 6 damage to all characters. Deal 6 damage to the enemy hero with lifesteal. Give a random minion in your hand, deck, and battlefield +6/+6. Draw 6 cards. Summon a 6/6 demon with Tauntaun Reborn. If you couldn't tell, the Deadly Sins thing, every number is a 6. It's all, the number of the beast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so what's funny is I debated between putting this as card I was scared of and card I want to be good but isn't, because it's sort of hard to tell. I know those things are kind of seem incongruous, and where I landed is that I don't think it's super effective, to necessarily build around this straight up, but each piece is just so much value. And of course you pick the one you want initially, I imagine many times that is going to be the deal 6 to everything because you're probably going to want the clear right away. And if it's not, maybe you're just like, well, I've got a clear board. I'll draw 6, right? And pay 6, draw 6 is not terrible.
Or take 6, idiot. One or the other.
I
Right,
think
yeah.
the 6 damage lifesteal fireball is probably like the most picked option. It's either that or the 6/6 taunt reborn. This reminds me of Kronks.
Yeah.
Worse, but like you don't have to play Galakron first. You can just play this on 6. It doesn't come with the guaranteed 6/6 body, but you have choices. I do think that only seeing 3 of the 7 options is going to be a really major limiting factor in the card.
That is true.
If we could
yeah.
see all 7, this card would be substantially better.
Yeah, I kind of forgot that you don't always get to pick. And we know that that is possible, right? I was thinking of it like the what is it, Kalimos, right? Where it has
Kalimos,
4
yeah.
options.
Yeah.
But I guess putting 7 things on the screen is a lot of space. So yeah, it'll be a little tricky in that sense. You're gonna like pick whichever one is the best. But if you really need a particular one, you might miss. So that's tricky.
Yeah.
But
Seems
I just
more
think-
like original Kazakus than anything in terms of the pool
Sure.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that being said, I think that it's still like just so much value each time you hit one of these later on. And something I was considering is if you run, say, a Queen Azshara, pretty much any of these, if you double them, are ridiculous.
Mm. Yeah,
And-
or you draw a bunch of them and snapshot them and throw them in the bottom of your deck.
No, I don't think that's worth it. But like if you just get the ring and you hold on to it, you can potentially get a deal 12 lifesteal or burn. I mean, obviously this is Ticketus, but burn 12 cards off your opponent's deck. It could be a situation where it's sort of like you shuffle in these things, they're good value, and then you use the ring to double the one that's going to be game winning for that particular matchup.
Yeah. I guess the other thing is that aside from the one that draws you 6 cards, these are all just going to take up draws, right? So if it's not what you need at the time, right? If you don't need a lifesteal fireball, right? Then you're going to top deck. This is going to get in between you and the cards that you put in your deck, which is the Cthulhu the Shattered phenomenon, right?
Mhm.
Where
Yeah, though
people
the
play
pieces
Cthulhu the
cost
Shattered.
3. 3 is a
And
good
yeah.
deal for almost all of these.
Right.
If they
Yeah, I mean,
cost
they're
6,
all-
I would be
they're
more
like-
concerned.
Right. I mean, the Cthulhu cards cost 5, which was 5 is a lot more than 3. I ran the numbers. It's true.
Although
But-
another thing you can do is once you are both in fatigue, this just will be your deck. So whether that is something that comes up a bunch or not, I don't know. But it is a way of, okay, rather than me taking fatigue, instead I will get these.
But you
Parts of the
want to
symphony.
take fatigue in Warlock now.
Well, no, you don't want to
not
take the
actually.
damage. And also, like, you can... So
Well, you want to get the number higher, right?
there is a really fascinating way they implemented Fatigue Warlock, right?
Yeah.
There's... we're just going to take a brief aside, because none of us mentioned these cards, but I already alluded to them earlier. There are 3 cards that they make you take fatigue damage when you play them and then give you an effect based on it. There's an imp that gains stats, there's something that deals damage to enemies, and then there is a 5-drop that makes 3 imps. And they scale up with your fatigue, which you can cause yourself either by actually drawing an empty deck or just playing these cards. They increase your fatigue counter early. There's clearly going to be some kind of option to do a Jailer Mal'Ganis thing if you want to go full fatigue checkmate, but also with Rin and with Rins and Sins, you get to... It's just all fatigue thematic of so many different ways to approach this. Do you want to solve fatigue by emptying decks and then putting these cards back in? Do you want to solve fatigue by being immune? Do you want to solve fatigue by playing the Warlock weapon, which prevents damage to you? Do you want to solve fatigue by killing your opponent with cards that get better with fatigue? You can do all these things, or any of these things, and it's very cohesive thematically, even though there's no clear one way to approach it. I think that's fun.
I don't know how it'll end up being, but I just think that the cards are pretty high value for
Yeah.
what each of them do, and maybe that'll straight up be balanced out by, you not necessarily getting the one you want every time, but it's a little spooky how much they do for 3 mana. So
I mean, it's 3 mana plus costing you a draw to some extent. I mean, until you get the one that draws you 6 cards, then that balances it out. But if you're not getting that until you get that, right, then each one of the other ones is going to cost you a draw.
sure.
Yeah, but if you
Depends.
draw
What
6
Warlock is
cards,
good
then
at.
you undo all that.
Right.
And
But it's important to note that I mean, unless you're just never playing that, right, then you're actually fatigue neutral in terms of like those getting shuffled into your deck, right? You could just never
Right.
play that.
I will also note, one, Warlock's good at drawing cards because Impending Catastrophe, if you want to get to fatigue naturally, you can still do that with Impending Catastrophe. But, important note, both Rune Mithrod and Hero Tammy are rotating.
Yes.
I just want to make everyone aware that Rune Mithrod is not going to be here, and if you already were aware, isn't it nice to think about? That we just don't have to deal with Rune Mithrod again in Standard? Sorry, Wild players, but you knew what you signed up for.
They're gonna like buff it to 2 mana before they rotate it, aren't they?
No. Matt London is on vacation. Let the man have his time. There's no way. No way. So anyways, Rune Mithrod would make this deck crazy, but it makes all decks crazy. But Impending Catastrophe is still a reasonable way to draw a lot of cards if you want. If you want to get to
Although-
fatigue naturally, you probably can.
Isn't Wicked Shipment leaving?
Wicked Shipment is leaving. Tamsin Rome, the 3 mana 1/3 is leaving. We still have Fiendish Circle.
Yeah.
Okay.
The new 2-drop is an Imp.
Sure.
So
You
Wicked
also have the one
Shipment-
where you draw 3 and you discard 1, right? Like that's also still in
Scourge
standard.
Supplies.
That's
Yep.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm not worried about Warlock's kit. I think they're going to be just fine. Okay. So card that I am afraid of. I am afraid of something for a much simpler reason than you two. Spotlight. 2 mana, Paladin, Holy Spell. Tradable. Convert a friendly Divine Shield into a 5/5 elemental. I think, speaking as someone that has been doing Corporal Whispers for an expansion, let me tell you, 5/5s on for 2 mana are good. They're good. In addition, Paladin has access to Click Clocker, Righteous Protector, and Sanguine Soldier. These are 3 minions, 6 copies of 1 mana Divine Shield minions. If I go first against you and you are not Demon Hunter, if you have a ping hero power, if you are Mage or Druid or DK, do you coin out the hero power to knock off the Divine Shield? Or do you accept the risk that I will play a 5/5? Tour Guide may help mitigate this, which I expect it to be a highly played card. But if I'm going second, I just do 1-drop, turn 2, 1-drop coin Spotlight. And then you can't stop my turn 2 5/5. And that means that there are going to be a lot of turn 2 5/5s. Now, Steve, I know you're going to say Light It Burns. Shh, don't care. You do your priest thing. Priest beats Paladin, I understand. For classes
See,
that
it's
do not
not-
have...
It's ironic though that the light it burns stops the spotlight.
It was turned up too high.
Yeah.
You can't. This is why you have to hire licensed union technicians, folks. So, anyways, outside of 1 mana kill this thing, and I understand that if I've lost with turn 2 Incorporeal Corporal, but with Whispers it's pretty tough. This is not as good as Corporal Whispers, but it's better than Corporal with no Whispers, and it's still a very fast 5/5. And I wonder if it will be too fast in a format that's getting a little slower. If you want other board-based decks to exist, we have seen multiple times that turn 2 5 health minions are limiting to board development. Now, this does not have Rush. I'm glad it doesn't have Rush. But turn 2 5 health minions that stick around are a little tough to keep up with sometimes. And I worry that that's what's going to happen here.
Well, and our initial experience with those was when they were 1/5s, like Hanar as a 1/5, or Evil
Yeah.
Miscreant was on 3, but you comboed it with coin. And that started as a 1/5. Yeah. This is definitely one that I thought about putting, and I was like, oh no, I had already put that down. And again, just the threat is warping, right? If you play a Divine Shield on one and they have to think about coining out their hero power, and
The fact
Say
that that's a
they
question
do-
is silly.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
say they do, and you're like, oh bummer.
And they
Guess
don't
I'll
even
trade it
remove the
away.
minion. They don't even get rid of the minion. They just get rid of the Divine Shield.
Yeah.
Right? So I mean,
Yeah.
especially for one that's like Rogue or Druid, where they have to run their face into it, right? I don't know how much that changes the calculus, but like you're now taking an extra 2 damage from that Sanguine Soldier, right? And to run your face into it, and you're not even getting rid of it. Then you're probably gonna have to run your face into it again the next turn. Like, is it better to just let the 5/5 hit the board? I don't know.
And I also imagine a circumstance where I am the rogue, I coin the knife, and then they say, okay, Hand of Adal attack you for 4, and I say, oh, okay. And don't feel too bad for rogues. We're going to be okay. Like, I will just play 2-mana Eviscerate on it without combo and kill the 4/2, and it will be all right. I still don't come out ahead in that trade, but I can figure it out. But if you were a different class, a druid, maybe you're less good at that. I don't know.
Yeah, Druid's got Rake. It'll be okay.
Yeah, that's true. Rake is probably good. Man, that card is awesome. Oh, that's so good. All right. Speaking of cards that are awesome, let's talk about, well, hopefully awesome. I don't know. Cards that we want to be good that aren't. Let's talk about
I kinda
Aerosmith.
disagree with yours, but I'm curious what your argument is here.
So Aerosmith, 2-mana 2/3 Naga. After you cast a spell, deal 1 damage to the lowest health enemy. And to be clear, the text and rate on this card is not bad. The support is what is missing here. There is some. You have Bunch of Bananas, which is the 1-mana spell, give a minion +1/+1. You can do this 3 times. If you do Aerosmith on 2 and Bunch of Bananas on 3, assuming the Aerosmith lives, then that's obviously pretty good. I don't expect it to live very often. But if it does, deal 3 pings and attack for 5. Yes, I would like to do that. But that assumes that step 1, play 2 drops. Step 2, hope nothing bad happens. Every single time that we say that, unless the minion has 5 health, as previously discussed, it just dies to anything and doesn't get to do the thing. However, I don't know if the support is there. Trinket Tracker helps, but I'm not sure we're going to be able to get this online quickly, and I'm not sure we have the spell density to make it work. If we do, I'll be thrilled, but I'm not sure we do.
So counter argument. Do you remember Naga Face Hunter?
I do.
We still have all of Sunken City. And back then, it was just Rajnajan in terms of a pay 2 mana, deal with it. Now it's Rajnajan and Aerosmiths. So you've got these 3 2-mana plays that you're just like, deal with it, or I Doggy Biscuit, or I barrel. I'm mixing the
Well,
two
Doggy
cards up.
Biscuit's
Bunch of
right.
bananas.
No,
No,
Doggy
it's
Biscuit's in
not.
core.
Oh, it's in core now. Oh,
Yes.
I missed that. Okay.
And additionally, oh, you killed it. Well, now I play my 2/3/3 Nagas, right? Because this is a Naga as well.
Mm.
So I think this actually slots very nicely into the Naga deck that now got some more spell synergy in the form of Bunch of Bananas and potentially Barrel of Monkeys. We'll see if that makes it or not.
I think it fits into the deck. I don't know how good the deck's going to be because here's my question. How do we draw cards? We lose Furious Hell. We lose Aimed Shot. I'm not sure how we get more cards because it's not Conjured Arrow. That card, turn 6 is not... I don't want that to be a thing that ever happens. Like, I understand it
might
will.
be.
It might be. How do we draw? How do we get cards back?
I mean, you got the Arcane one, right?
The Conjured Arrow is turn 6.
No, not
No.
Conjured Arrow.
The one that draws an arcane.
Well, yeah.
Trinket Tracker draws a 1-mana spell.
Trinket Tracker.
Oh,
There's
okay.
also no. I'm thinking of the other Arcane from March of the Lich King. Hold on. Arcane Quiver.
I am not playing a 2-mana tracking in my deck. That is not a draw. That is a tracking. Cards not.
Say that there was a time when face decks did not really have a ton of draw. They just killed you. And I think what is maybe the replacement here is you have a few cards like Bunch of Bananas, like Barrel of Monkeys, that give you a bit more value, more triggers for the one card.
It's
And there is a Conscious Call.
Yeah.
Conch
if you're
Call,
playing
yeah.
Naga.
I hope so. Like the dream here would be for this to be Kolkar Pack Runner with charge, right? Like that is the dream here. But I can't target the damage the same way here. But also a card needs to be worse than Kolkar Pack Runner. I really hope we have the spell density for this. My concern is that we kind of don't, because all the draw rotates out. Multicaster rotates. Furious Howl rotates. We don't necessarily need to run draw, but we also... Face Hunter hasn't always wanted to run a lot of spells, and when it has, it's had the means to replenish its own hand. So that is why I think, potentially, the structure is not here for this awesome card that I want to play with.
Yeah.
I hope
Quick
I'm
Shot's
wrong.
Core too, right?
What is?
Quick Shot?
I believe it's staying.
Yeah. So.
There are decent cards here. I think that it's going to be a deck filled with good cards. I'm just not sure that deck is going to get there. But it does fit really nicely into Naga Hunter. Like, I'm going to do that, and I think it is a natural fit. Like you said, it triggers the Barb Nest, it triggers the Naga's Pride. It's a bunch of good things. I'm just not sure the card has the support. I really hope I'm wrong. And bunch of bananas. Like, I'm going to be putting a bunch of bananas in the deck, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I guess we'll just have to see if we can get it work if we just Dream On, right?
Mm-hmm. So why don't we walk this way to Edelweiss's card that she wants to be good that isn't?
Yeah. So, Photographer Fizzle, I recognize full well that shuffling something into our deck to pick up later that like you very specifically are going to need is probably not going to be worth it. I think I described this when we first talked about it as sort of like the 3-mana 3/3 Dormant, the Flightmaster Dungar, where like seems like it should be okay because you're not sacrificing that much in terms of playing it on 3, but it just like was not enough. And here, taking a snapshot of your current hand, like any combo that would have to rely on this is a really, really slow one. And anything where you just want the extra value, you're probably better off putting something else in your deck. But it's so cool in terms of its effect, because I remember when we played the Elise
Fan?
where you...
Oh, the
well, no,
Angoro
the
pack.
Elise where you shuffled an
Yeah.
Angora pack. Yeah.
Oh, the
And
Angora
you-
pack was great.
Yeah, you got your Angora pack, and you're like, oh, what's in the pack? And here, you know what you're going to get, right? Because it was what was in your hand at the time that you played this. But yeah, it seems like something that, maybe will start in some people's lists and then fall out for other stuff.
I think it'll be much easier to find a consensus on this card than the last card. He's slow. He's Hexlord Malacras kinda, except like cheaper and neutral, but also you gotta wait a while, and it's just the value proposition here is mitigated by the sheer volume of patience you are required to have, and it's a very optimistic card. I understand why you picked it, because there are definitely, you can chart out a game flow that includes this card. It's like, and then you get to do this, but it's the amount of times that it actually happens, probably pretty rare. Well, speaking of cards that make your deck better that probably aren't good enough, Steve.
So Black Rock and Roll, we talked about it last week. The warrior legendary spell, and that give 5 mana, give attack and health equal to the cost to all minions in your deck. So we talked about it last week. I won't beat it up. The revelation that came out of the Discord today that I had as we were talking about it, and then kind of sunk into everyone else slowly, is that you want to play From the Depths with this in the same deck, but you really ought not to, because if you play From the Depths before you can play Black Rock and Roll, it gives -3/-3 of a buff to all those minions, because they are still costed that way in deck. So it's like, well, I really want to run From the Depths if I'm buffing stuff in my deck, but then it's actively like hurting them. I mean, I guess you could do it afterwards, but but then you're like playing a 5 cost card and then playing a 4 cost card that's also not doing anything after that. So it's like, maybe that's not the way. And I mean, there's some cool stuff that you could do like with buffed up Ziliaxes and buffed up Armadillos and the new, what was it, drum sol was it not drum was it drum soloist, the one they were, the dragon
the
that they
dragon,
showed
the
today?
5/5 taunt that becomes also a
Yeah.
7/7 rush. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, like, I want to play that in a Menagerie deck. Like, that's a pretty good dragon to run in a Menagerie deck, and you probably want to run Black Rock and Roll in a Menagerie deck if you're going
We
big
are
with
thinking
it.
about Menagerie decks very differently, Steve.
We are.
Yeah.
It's
We are.
Mena-
But I mean,
I
like,
want to
the
play that in a
Menagerie
slow
payoff
deck.
cards- No, I want to play it in a slow deck because, like, all the payoffs are slow, right?
There's an impending catastrophe for Menagerie. That's not. I want to play minions on curve and then 2 mana draw 4.
Yeah, you got mistakes for that in amalgams, right?
And Rowdy Fans, which is a 3 mana 1/5 that deals 4 damage to the face. Love that.
But yeah, I just like it just seems like everything that you want to do with this card, it's just so awkward. And maybe there's a way to get it to work, but it just feels like it's not going to be it.
Yeah. I think it would have a shot if it hit your hand as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
just the fact that you need to be like, please don't draw the things I want to hit before I play this, and also you spend 5 mana doing nothing. It's really rough.
I'm sad that I agree with both of you. Because, like, this card makes numbers, and I want to buff Remornia with this so bad. So bad. Because she becomes... She's what is Remornia? What's it? 5/10 is the base?
7.
She's a 5/10, right? 7 mana 5/10?
Yeah, 5/10. 7
Yeah.
So she would become a 12/17? A 12/17 living sword? I would like that, please. I would like one of those. Well, okay. But it's time to talk about cards we think are either under or overrated. Steve, you get to start us off with the Druid legendary spell Rhythm and Roots.
Yeah, Rhythm and Roots, which I think is overrated. 4 mana nature spell, legendary, choose one secretly, which we haven't had in a while. Summon 3 5/5 ancients in 2 turns, or summon 3 8/8 giants in 4 turns. So I know this is Druid. I know Druid doesn't do a lot in the first couple turns. Druid still doesn't want to be spending 4 mana, do nothing to get something eventually. And like either one of these, like, first of all, 4 turns in Hearthstone is an eternity.
Yeah.
And even like waiting 2 turns to get 3 5/5s, and also, by the way, remember that you did that and don't put more than 4 minions on your board before that.
Well, I imagine
it probably
this
is not
sits like
gonna
a
be
quest. It sits like
Yeah.
a quest, right? Yeah, it's gonna be the
It
same
doesn't
thing.
matter though. Like, I mean, you can stare at the why am I blanking on the dragon now? The Paladin dragon who poofs everybody for 2 turns.
The Storm.
Anachronos?
Yeah,
Oh,
Anachronos.
Anachronos.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
but
could
you
be
don't see
staring at
those
an
cards.
Anachronos.
You can
Yeah,
look
but
at the
you're staring
minions.
at Anachronos' big butt on the board, and knowing that you still you shouldn't be putting all that stuff on the board, and then all of a sudden it comes back, right? Like,
This will make
a
a noise when you draw your card every turn. I think it's going to be a little bit more obvious. I understand that it might be constraining because you made the choice, but I don't think it's
Yeah.
going to be quite... Anachronos, you have to remember everything. I think there's actually an unreasonable player burden with that card. This is going to, like, ding and show you a number.
Yeah. But even then, right? Like, you need to be planning ahead that you're gonna want that, right? Like planning ahead for what's gonna happen 4 turns from now. First of all, planning to be alive 4 turns from now if you're paying 4 mana to do nothing in a world where we don't have Guff anymore. By the way, like, it's easy to think about, Druid's just gonna have 16 more mana to play with. No, they're not. They're gonna have 10 or maybe 11. And that's going to be a very different world for Druid, and for Druid to spend 4 mana to get minions that are not going to be able to attack that turn and are not going to have taunt or affect the board that turn. So it's going to be like another full turn until you can actually use those minions, right? It's so slow.
Yeah, I do think that going for the 8/8s is pretty much never going to be correct.
Right.
Now, I do wonder if it's 2 turns, is it like, okay, end of this turn, that's turn 1? Or does it start on the following? Because that matters pretty significantly.
It's probably like Anachronos, right? Where it's like 2 full turns later.
I would bet it is the same as a dormant trigger. It's when you draw your card.
Oh yeah.
Your turn starts when you draw your card.
Right. Yeah.
Because
So
every other
you're gonna
card
get
that counts.
If you play it on curve, you'll get them on turn 6, right?
Okay, so
Yeah.
right,
Correct.
but then they won't be able to attack. So
But they
you'll
don't get to
you'll-
attack till turn 7, right?
right. So you'll want to play the buff spell that like gives everything +2/+4 and taunt. I think that's kind of how you want to do this, right? Is you have your board get summoned, and then you give them +2/+4 and taunt, so that they're immediately relevant. So I don't think it's like completely without merit for that reason, but it's going to involve a lot of planning.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to have gotten ramp. You have to have found a turn to ramp somewhere in there too, right? Because in order
mean,
for that to happen,
Innervate
well,
exists.
yeah, I mean, because drum circle costs 7.
Well, I mean, that would be a reason, I suppose, to pick the 8/8s, right? Is just to make this last longer if you're playing it on 4, or you just play this on 5 and pick the 5.
So ambitious to go like I know I'm gonna be alive in 4 turns if I'm just like spending half my turn or a full turn just doing nothing, right?
Yeah. If I'm against a Blood DK or whatever, and I Vate this out on 3 and then Drum Circle it on 7, like, it seems okay, assuming that they cannot Soul Stealer it. If they can Soul Stealer
Yeah,
it,
I mean
then
that's what
whatever.
I was just gonna say. Like
Yeah.
Soul Stealer or Corpse Explosion by that point, and then they're gone anyway. Who cares? Like against the decks where you would be slow enough to be able to pull this off, they're going to have removal for it. They're gonna Whirlpool it or Soul Stealer it or Corpse Explosion it or Equality Clear it or whatever, right? Like they're gonna have 4 turns to know that that's coming and line up the answer for that.
Well, I mean, that is where you would create the situation of, okay, either you don't clear my board and I kill you with a buff, or you do and then I have a new board to buff, right? That's how you would want to set it up in those matchups.
Yeah, but how threatening are you making that board if you have to leave 3 board slots free, right?
Honestly, 4 minions that can get buffed is still a lot, and you don't have to leave all the space free if it's gonna kill them,
if it's gonna
right?
get cleared out anyway. Yeah, I could see that. But
If the choice is like either they leave it and you lose the value of summoning your things, but then they're dead.
Yeah.
Like,
So this is like, you're viewing this as the biggest Soul of the Forest in history. Of just, you play this, and then you set up a lethal board, and then you have your refill preloaded. Okay. I kind of see that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it takes a lot of
It's
lot of
ambitious.
careful planning, and you need a lot of things to go the way that you think they're gonna go, which often when you're planning that many turns ahead doesn't always go that way. Yeah.
I can at least understand that use case a little bit
Yeah.
better. That makes
Yeah.
sense to me. Okay.
I
Well,
can get there. I don't think it's completely useless, and I think that logic makes sense, but I think a lot of people are gonna play this and they're just gonna get like their head bashed in immediately. Right?
Well-
And they're not gonna make it to when the things wake up.
but after they lose, all they have to do is a roots cause analysis.
Oh.
Well, let's see if we can recover from that pun. Edelweiss, tell us about your card.
so I think that cover artist is kind of underrated. We are losing Faceless Manipulator. They're taking that one out, and I feel like that's partially because this is a bit of a replacement. So cover artist is a 4-mana 3/3 battle cry, become a copy of another minion, but as a 3/3. Previously, we had Prince Taldaram had this effect, but that was 1 mana less. It was 3-mana 3/3, and you couldn't run any other 3-drops. Cover artist, you can run 2 of them. So any sort of like Death Rattle synergy or pretty much anything you want a copy of where you don't need the battle cry, this could be quite powerful as another instance of, as long as the stats aren't relevant. So if you're doing some kind of combo where you need multiple pieces of something, you just maybe in an overheal deck, I don't know, maybe all the slots are spoken for, but if you play this on Heartthrob, and then activate the location, right? Then you have 2 of them that both summon 3/3s. So anything like that, I just feel like it's really solid. And as we get more and more sets, there could be more and more possibilities where there's some kind of stupid combo that involves this.
Yeah, or like the unholy Death Knight with spreading the death rattles everywhere. Right, so you get another copy of the death rattle. especially the one that's going to send the 9/9 charge taunt face. That seems pretty good. Might want more of those.
I mean, yeah, if we're cage heading and we have Death Corral, I don't feel Cover Artist needs to enter that equation. But yes, I like where that's going. But yeah, I don't know. Cover Artist seems like the sort of card that someone smart is going to break, so it makes sense to me that it's your card. I can see some applications, but also it is not immediately obvious to me, which is probably part of the appeal.
What if we turn Cover Artist into a creepy painting?
No, that one did not pan out.
No. All right. Well, I'm going to talk about a card that I think is underrated. And by the way, if we were doing core set card that we think people aren't taking seriously enough, Tour Guide is going to make every single deck in the format better, especially Death Knight, which is there's a Death Knight card I'm about to talk about, but really, really good with all sorts of decks. You play it in Paladin every time. It's just lost in the jungle on turn 1. It's really good in basically every class except Demon Hunter. You don't have to play it in Demon Hunter because your hero powers already cost 1. But every other class I think is going to play Tour Guide. But I'm talking about a different DK card here, Screaming Banshee. This almost was the card that I am scared of because I like playing aggro decks, and this thing terrifies me. 5 mana, 3/6, lifesteal, undead. After your hero gains health, summon a soul with that much attack and health. So if I trade 2 3/3s into this, I give my opponent 2 3/3s and 6 life. That is probably the best case scenario. I guess hitting it for 6 once. So they get the effective heal of the 6 that I hit it with, the 3 damage it deals with lifesteal, and they still get a 3/3. If it is Tour Guide into Nerubian Vizier for a Vampiric Blood, and then they play this and Vampiric Blood on the same turn, that is either 2 5/5s or a 10/10. I don't know how big. It doesn't feel like I'm going to be able to come back from that all that effectively. This gives Blood DK's single rune or go all in a snowbally board presence, and also comes down the turn before Gnome Muncher. So I am. This goes in Rainbow DK.
Mm-hmm.
And if I face this and I cannot end the game extremely quickly, I am concerned that the game will end extremely quickly in a way that I am not pleased about. I have not really seen that much excitement for this. But unless you're going to lethal your opponent the turn that they play this, I think it becomes very, very difficult to claw the game back when suddenly they have a huge board and more life, because that's what their deck does. The No Muncher turn right after. It's normally with cards like this, you ignore them, like Amida, you ignore them and start going face.
Yeah.
Right.
This doesn't really let you do that, and the follow-ups available to DK involve them being able to gain health on their own and making a larger board. And again, Nerubian Vizier, you just save stuff, a 2 mana or less spell that gives you life, hopefully Vampiric Blood, and then all of a sudden the stats are... It's like a Corpse Bride with lifesteal at a certain point.
Yeah. This is definitely a card that I've had on my radar, and like you, have been surprised at the limited discourse about it. I think because most people tunnel vision on the situation of playing a Vampiric Blood, which you can't do until 7 mana, or just anything where you're doing stuff at the same time. Whereas you and I are both looking at the just play this on 5 scenario and how terrifying that is, right? Anything board based, it's like, wait, I have to kill that with damage. I'm going to summon them things. Like it's...
See, and that's why it didn't bother me, because like if you don't hit their face, then they don't get any minions. Easy.
Correct.
Right?
The way around this is for your opponent to be on full health, which is not a scenario that I really want to be in, but some people do want to.
Yeah.
I understand.
This has made me think about running Sourfang, right? Just having a way of dealing yourself damage, because the payoffs for healing are so much more.
I can see that. Also, like, don't play a go wide deck into this, because Coin Banshee into Blood Boil is disgusting.
Is it a bunch of little minions that you get, or is it one giant
is.
one?
I would expect it's a bunch of 2s, the same way I would expect Vampiric Blood to give you 2 5s, because it's sequential. I also imagine the animation will take forever, because the lightning bolt will pause and go off in between every single proc.
Oh,
But
man.
I imagine that it basically turns into a Deathborn at that point, except you gain life, so a Lifeborn. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to stay. I'm not going to stay in that game.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is the Ripper weapon. with Blood Boil is going to be nuts. So I like the direction that they're taking the Blood DK cards in this set, where it's centered around manipulating your life total and life steal and that kind of stuff.
Yep. So I don't want to face this, which is why I think it is underrated. Okay. And then finally, card we do not understand. So this next card, like, I kind of get it. I don't think there's any card in this set that we haven't already talked about that is completely inscrutable. But Lead Dancer, 6 mana, 4/2, Death Rattle, summon a minion from your deck with less attack than this minion. If you buff it, it can hit the other copy. And I understand theoretically we're going to get an Oyo Troop, which has exactly 1 less power. But does that mean we don't play any other minions in our deck? Does that mean we only play big minions? Do we not play minion buffs? If so, then this is just a really cowardly grunt that only has 1 target. And if we're not playing other minions, how do we survive? And is a 3/6 taunt all that great? And how do we win? I have so many questions.
Yeah, I think Cowardly Grunt is the best sort of, hey, this doesn't seem like it'll work, because that card did not see play for its entirety.
Big Warrior
And-
was a thing for a minute. Like, there was Big Warrior.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, so maybe this will see a similar brief time. I do think there are more things than just the Anoyo Troop. There is the Rusher that Wicked was talking about earlier. That's an undead, starts at 3 attack, and whenever it attacks, it gains an attack.
Mishmash Mosher.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you could run Red Herring, and because it's a big taunt, right? It's a 3/12.
I just
taunt.
love any scenario that gets us to play Red Herring just tickles me, and I'm here
That's-
for it.
We're basically admitting out loud that it's bait. Like, that the deck is actually a...
Yeah, it's
You
big
know.
because it fishes out the Red Herring.
It's thematically consistent.
Yes.
Right. And then you could potentially run, well, you definitely run Kangor, right? And then something that wouldn't get pulled out by this, but would get pulled out by Kangor, is the amplified Elec. So I think there's something there for a big paladin. Maybe there'll be, other low power but high cost minions that you're looking for down the line. Certainly, you need enough non-minions to tide you over in the early game to get there, though.
Yeah.
It costs 6.
It does cost 6, yeah.
Like you need to be getting a lot of value out of that to justify playing a 6 mana 4/2, right?
Yeah.
Well, Edelweiss, yours makes me sad. But, okay. Go ahead.
But I don't think anyone will disagree.
Just go ahead.
It makes me sad too. I put this card here. Oh wait, class called Warrior,
It's a
and
class now?
yeah. I know that there have been quite a lot of memes over this, but there's definitely truth there. I'm really hoping that there's something that we're missing, that the cards come together in a fashion that is not Fires plus Tony, and we will have, a good warrior deck that is Menagerie, or maybe just still Enrage. Maybe Enrage will just be better positioned and doesn't really actually gain much. Maybe it just uses a few hand buff cards and whatever. But right now, I'm just not really seeing the Matrix here, and it feels like there's a lot of cards that typically, like, if any one of the packages had been a piece of what Warrior got in a set, we would be like, oh yeah, and they gave Warrior some of that stuff again. That's not good. But look, we got Shield Shatter, right? Except this time we didn't have a Shield Shatter. It was just like 3 separate packages of the stuff that we're used to considering bad in Warrior.
So here's the question. What is Warrior's identity right now? What is the thing you were looking for?
mean, I think I was looking for a kind of board clear that is better than the weapon they got.
Yeah.
Because
Because
that
the
weapon
the
is-
archetype that we know Warrior 4 is control, and they haven't supported
Yeah.
that for a while. Like,
Yeah.
Alterac.
they have implemented it as armor gain, which, like, yes, that is an important part, but you do need the board clears besides brawl. And
We have Bladestorm now. I guess that's not a board clear.
yeah, like Bladestorm is
It can be a board clear, but
It's a good card.
It's decent, but it's harder to use as board clears go. Yeah, it's just in a really weird spot, right? The things they gave it are Menagerie and Taunt and Armor Gain
and Rifts.
and Rifts, which
Yeah.
came out of left field and do not look great.
Well, I mean, you could make if all the Rifts cost 1 less mana, they would be cards that you would be excited to play, and you would play them.
Yeah.
I don't
Sure.
know what I'm doing with them, but we would play them, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And it's entirely possible to adjust the tuning. I am not worried about their ability to tune here. Really, I ask, what does Warrior do? Because outside of self-damage payoffs, which have been consistent over the years and are good now, even though they're underrated, they were good with Risky Skipper. They are solid now. But what exactly do we do with the class? And I think that we are probably seeing the beginning of the pre-Stark for Warrior. They have to start concepting what the class will actually look and feel like, because it needs to be updated and brought into the modern era. The deck that's always worked for Warrior has been Control, and it's always been slow the game down and play big stuff. But that's not quite how Hearthstone works anymore, and they want to move away from attrition, and the addition of other classes to the game and various realignment of who does what has made Warrior kind of stuck in the middle here. Blood Decay took a bunch of stuff, but Blood Decay isn't exactly great either, and it does the lifesteal thing, which is different, and I think they're actually finding a clear identity for Blood Decay in this set, like you mentioned. But what does Warrior do now? And I think the idea of proactive minions that make it hard for your opponent to fight in the board, like Rush Warrior, was popular for one expansion. It's a solid enough deck. We can play some taunts. Taunts are fine. Menagerie's okay, but it definitely feels like they're looking for something, not they found something.
Yeah.
Like with Shaman, the class really felt like it found a good slot with Spell School Stuff Matters. Even though it might not be great now without Multicaster, which was a neutral, it's still, we found various ways for that to feel Shaman. It's like, okay, this is cool, even though I'm a little worried about Shaman too, but at least the identity is somewhat clear now. Warrior doesn't feel like it's quite hit there yet. It feels like it's entering into like the angsty transformation phase.
Yeah, and like they've tried the weapon matter stuff too, and then that didn't really work. And I mean, then they gave it to Hunter, right? So with Shock Spitter. So it's like, they've tried a whole bunch of different things, and it just seems like, and they're not giving the tools for it to be a control class, right? Like that's the other problem. Is that, like you said, they don't want it to be an attrition class. They don't want that to be a playstyle as much, but they're not giving it tools. They gave Priest plenty of tools for that, right?
So
like we're
that
getting
kind
it. We're
of-
getting plenty of like tools for attrition Priest in this set. So I'm not sure that they don't want attrition to be a playstyle, but they're just not giving those to Warrior. But they're not giving it anything else to hang its hat on, really.
So here's what I think. Priest has value as part of its class, and that is not really something that Warrior has. And so previously Control Warrior, in the very initial state, you ran like Sylvanas, you ran Ragnaros, you ran Grommash, like you still had these things to kill your opponent with, but those have gotten weaker and weaker. Honestly, a lot of it was because you ran Alex, right? You ran Alex to set the opponent to 15, and then you didn't have to do all the earlier work of whittling down their life total, and you have some of these finishers to put the pressure on. You've got weapons, etc. And previously we had bombs, and that was, some people really liked that. Some people really, really didn't. And the way that Warrior controls has always been additionally about killing the opponent still. And I think that has always been what I liked in Warrior, even when it was, not an archetype, but tempo Warrior, sort of mid-rangey Warrior, right? Where you had Execute was 1 mana and was very efficient. You had Fiery War Axe, you had some charge minions. You were focused on just like removing your opponent's stuff and playing your own, right? That is good Hearthstone. And Tempo Warrior kind of switched into being more like enrage and rush stuff and lost some of those previous things. And it's just kind of muddled the whole space where like the last control stuff we had was shield shatter into play broken mana cheating from Abyssal.
Yeah.
And that wasn't great. And previously it was into Kazakusan, and Kazakusan was a win condition that they had to kind of deal with for other reasons because Druid was using it.
Or Nelly. And how
Yeah.
much of this as well. So something that I think as well here, there have been some compelling warrior cards that have been really mired by conditionality. Mossworn Bailiff and Flesh Shaper are big, taunty mid-range minions that just their conditions were too hard to meet because there was no support tool to gain armor on their own turn for not a lot of mana. And that meant you couldn't play big, chunky minions mid-game. That archetype just never materialized. Control Warrior is not the hardest thing in the world to support. The issue is that you have to give it a very particular set of win conditions. And the win condition has felt like it's kind of where we're lacking because the classic Control Warrior archetypes have always been based around the class fantasy of slow the game down and get to my one haymaker, Galvangar sort of thing. And Galvangar was good. Shield Shatter helped a lot. We had Kazakusan. We had From the Depths into literally whatever I want. I don't know. There hasn't really been a warrior deck in a while that I can think of that had real threat density, where you get a bunch of things that you can use to actually end the game successfully, because ending the game is the sort of thing that hasn't always felt like the warrior way, and when it has, it's been with giant piles of charge damage.
Yeah.
So what's missing is kind of, what does the trajectory of the game look like? I think the issue isn't the middle. It's plotting out what the end can look like in a healthy way and then working backwards of how do we make warrior able to win, and then what tools do we give them to support that vision.
Okay.
Yep. And so I think that what I would like to see, and something that the legendary spell kind of goes with, I think it's just not really reliable enough, is I have liked all the minions warrior gets that like clear the board and go face, right? That kind of have these two modes. Our weapon, the living sword, Remornia, is excellent, particularly after they buffed it. It didn't have a place, but that card is legit, and I think will make its way into things in 4-set meta, because being able to kill a thing, hit a thing with your weapon, kill another thing, like that is really good clearing. And also, if you're getting to go face with the weapon, that's pretty good damage. And you get all these incentives to like buff it while it's on the board, etc. There's the stuff you can do there. And similarly, Olgra, where she hits the whole board and also goes face. Like, I think that kind of stuff is really great. Grommash does not do that. Grommash just goes face. And so is like not as good in that space. I think if we get more things like that, Trench Stalker, I think is 9 mana, right?
It is, yeah.
If it were 8 mana, I think that card would reach being a little more playable, being in that zone of like something that clears and potentially goes face.
Think about Troublemaker.
What if
Troublemaker
you left
was
it at 9 mana? So,
Yeah, Troublemaker I feel like was peak warrior sort of control / aggression, right?
Yeah.
Because it was something that you could throw it down and it would clear some stuff. But if they didn't have anything to clear, it just went face and had to be dealt with.
Yeah.
That would be the core card that they could have included to make late game warrior a little more interesting.
Yeah, I think most people are frustrated because they were expecting core to give warrior a direction. and Warrior got some good cards in core, but they weren't really like class defining, right? They weren't really providing a clear direction for Warrior, or a clear couple of directions for Warrior to go in. Like, there are definitely some good control cards, good control cards, but not anything that's replacing what's leaving. Like, Shield Shatter's leaving a big hole, and like Bladestorm's good, but it's not Shield Shatter.
Well, and Shield Shatter isn't exactly working currently, right? Like, it's obviously it's a great card and a huge loss, but it wasn't getting us there. So, yeah, the direction that I saw when I looked at the core set was taunts. Like, I really think they really want us to play a lot of taunts. And, okay, I'll try it. We've done that before, but it doesn't stand out as much, and it's still, even if it works, I don't think that's exciting. Like, the excitement here is something that you need to work on. Because Jake Eric had a great example in chat of Mage, of also kind of not feeling super cohesive, but the cards are so magey that who cares? It feels like it doesn't get any of this analysis or furor on social media because it's a bunch of spells that draw you more spells, like, oh, it's Mage. But, I don't know how much power there actually is here. And Steve, your card that we're going to talk about in a second, and you don't understand, is a Mage card that I agree is kind of wacky, but the class feels
it feels like a Mage.
Yeah, the flavor is
and like
dialed
even
in.
Overheal, even Overheal, like, you can have your qualms with how it's being implemented and whether we're going to be able to make a deck out of it, at launch, and those are fair criticisms. But Overheal feels priesty, right?
Yep.
Like that, like it definitely feels like something that a priest should be doing. I mean, like, Warrior, like, what is Warrior flavor? Like, hit it very hard? Like,
It's
I mean, like, that's
self-damage,
it's weapons.
attacking with weapons, like weapon manipulation, but not quite the same way that Rogue does it, but in the same ballpark at least. Armor is a big part of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, the problem is that
Pirates.
the attacking piece kind of got done better by Demon Hunter, and then Demon Hunter's kind of gotten that piece of its identity, and Blood DK's kind of taken on a lot of the control piece of it. It's doing it a different way. It's doing it with lifesteal instead of with armor, but it's bringing the health total above 30 or 35, right?
Yeah.
Is regardless of whether you're increasing the number or putting a number in a shield next to it. It's like, that was always Warrior's thing, and now Blood DK is again not great, but it's doing it better. People are playing Blood DK. Whether or not they should be is a different discussion. But nobody's playing Control Warrior except for, a couple of class enthusiasts.
Well, and not even just Blood DK. Renathal has been the worst card for Control Warrior to deal with since the second it was printed. It's more stuff to get through in an attrition class. It's life above 30, which is supposed to be Warrior's thing. That card has made it impossible for most control decks to exist, but especially Warrior, because the control decks that do like it, Control Priest, will never ever lose to Warrior ever. It is impossible for them to do that. So they kept feeding Warrior disruption cards. Call to the Stand, Disruptive Spellbreaker, Asphodon, whatever. But they didn't quite fit because the class can maybe take away a couple of your toys, but it can't end the game. So where I think is missing is that when you have a bunch of charge minions, you can't make those too good as a way to end the game, or otherwise you end the game with a bunch of charge minions. And we know how that isn't great. We have a lot of evidence there. And you can also stop that from happening with taunts and extra life and hand disruption, whatever. Warrior needs to find a new way to convincingly end the game. I don't know what that is, but convincingly. Maybe it involves throwing your armor at the other player, right? Maybe there is something that turns your armor into damage. I don't know. But there has to be some way for Warrior to end the game, and then once that idea is fleshed out, work backwards from there, build the support cards around it, and you can have yourself an identity, but you got to go find it. And that's the next thing they have to do. The Priest tune-up looks pretty cool. They're working on Paladin, shifting the secrets over to Rogue, which will make Paladin a little better, and Rogue hopefully a little worse. And what they have to do is figure out next, where is Warrior's arc going? Maybe they have some more stuff coming. I don't think they've gotten bad cards. They just haven't gotten a deck in a little while.
Yeah. And the other problem, because you mentioned armor, right, is that Like when they go in too hard on armor, right? Then nobody's happy, right? Like whenever you start getting more armor than you have life, then people start asking for shield breaker to be put back in core again, right? So it's like that might be good for the warrior players, but everybody else tends to hate it. So that's another problem that's hard to balance, and it's just like when warrior is good, there are very few warrior decks that have been very good that have felt good to play against recently.
I like Enraged Warrior. I think has
Aside
been
from Enraged Warrior,
but
that's why I said very few and not none.
Good popular decks always get complained about, so I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not gonna blame that on Warrior. I do think Kazakhstan Warrior was too polarized, and the Warrior deck that got 6 cards nerfed probably was too good. It didn't need to get 6 cards nerfed, but like From the Depths of Nelly were not the way that you want games to end. C, really cheap charge damage that does a bunch. You don't really want that to happen.
Yeah.
But over the last 2 years, we've had a lot of good Warrior decks that have existed, multiple that have gotten nerfed. It just kind of didn't land this year, and then the core set looks like it's a little lost, or at least is not as obvious as some other classes. I do also think, for those of you that were around, I need a bumper for a back in my day. I need a back in my day bumper. For those of you that were around for One Night in Karazhan, Purify was a card that people memed on. 2 mana, silence one of your own minions, draw a card. That came out when Priest was in the middle of the same kind of social media storm.
That was when
Warriors,
Unicorn
right now.
Priest was a meme because Ben Bro made a comment about maybe somebody's going to find the Unicorn Priest, and it literally did not exist. And Unicorn Priest was the only priest deck because it didn't exist.
But also, the same set had Priest of the Feast, which was a really, really strong card that saw play for the entire time it was in Standard. But people were so dialed into the negativity around Priest that every opportunity to dunk on it was taken. And it ended up being this kind of self-fulfilling spin-up of negativity around cards that no one had played with and a class that people were convinced was unfixable and a joke. So,
And you know what? Priest of the Feast went in later on during its time. Razakus Priest.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it didn't have Kazakus by then, but yeah, Priest of the Feast went in the Highlander,
Yeah.
Shadow Reaper Anduin Raza Priest, and
It would have had that a
deck
year
was
later,
Good.
Yeah.
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 So, I think these cards were designed a while ago, right? I imagine they have been working on things to adjust Warrior, whether it's in the mini set for this or next expansion down the line. And it's just taking a little while for us to feel those effects. I will say Warrior is also the class that it seems to most get the things where, well, their initial thought was too broken, so they had to dial it back.
Yeah.
Previously, it was Dr. Boom's scheme, where that card definitely shuffled bombs and upgraded overturns into the opponent's deck, and they changed it to gain armor, and it was just horrific. And then now with the Rifts initially played every Rift that came before, and that was too good.
Yeah. It does seem like Warrior gets a lot of like stuff got nerfed late in the expansion, or just like weird cards that need to be class cards that they can't figure out where else to go, like Fires of Zinajari. You know, like I don't know if
The
that
next
got
nerf
nerfed.
target? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know if that got adjusted down from something like ridiculous in testing, but like that's and they've gotten a few of those, right? They've gotten Explore on Goro in the past too, and like just like some of these like really like out there, like every class gets these every so often, but Warrior seems to get them a lot more. Maybe it's just recency bias.
I think it's just the past 2 sets. Think about how many times we've memed on Warlock. They got the worst
Tone Tampering,
Alterac
yeah.
Valley set I have ever seen. Fell Warlock. I think literally none of them saw play. And then Voyage, the immediate next set, had overcosted Curses and Murlocs. And every Warlock player was like, they don't know how to make the class anymore. They made it good once, and then they're like, never again. And then Nathri came out, we got Imps. And then Lich King came
And
out
they made
like
the
they're
curses
good
better.
cards. And they made the curses better. And they fixed it. right? They
Yeah.
fixed it. They gave the class options. It's now one of the better classes. They found a way to make it evocative, and now they're giving it more good cards, and they're figuring it out. It might just be 2 bad sets in a row, and okay.
Yep.
And okay.
Yeah.
And we have to play with these cards to see if they're actually bad or not, because we are missing so much context, and everyone has been wrong about every rotation forever, and they can easily make these cards better. It is not hard to make these cards better. We just don't know that they need to yet. And the other larger issue of the class identity being a little vague, the devs have talked about it so many times by now. The idea that they are unaware, don't think that.
Yeah.
They talk about it all the time, every day, on Twitter, every day. So please don't think that it's being ignored. I can say that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's sometimes like it takes time, and like the nerfs may have something to do with it. It might just be that like that one nerf where they had to nerf like 6 cards in the deck kind of threw things off for a little bit because they bounced around that not having been the case, right? And it might just take a little time for like the stuff that they'd been designing was balanced around those cards that were too powerful, and now those cards got dialed back, but everything was balanced around those cards being powerful, and now they're not as powerful. So it kind of leads to a bit of a cascade that it might just take them a little bit of time to work through.
I kind of hope that theory crafting is dominated by a bunch of warrior decks.
Oh yeah.
That'd be fun.
I mean,
anyways,
we'll have lots of different attempts at different ways to play Menagerie Warrior, and we'll see whose is the least bad, I guess.
So, Steve, why don't you tell us about the last card that you don't understand?
So, Synthesize, I think this got revealed today. It might have, because it seemed like it was out of the blue, and I don't remember talking about it before. Is a 1-mana mage spell. Add a random 1, 2, and 3 cost elemental to your hand. We don't have other elemental synergy. We're just getting a bunch of minions in our hand for reasons.
So there are a limited number of elementals in standard right now. I can read them off for you. We have, or sorry, in what's going to be standard.
Yeah, and Year of the Wolf, yeah.
Shatter Shambler, Glacial Shard, Bubbler, and Arcane Artificer are the ones. Submerged Space Rock, Spirit of the Tides, Prismatic Elemental, Menacing Nimbus, Mana Geode, and Rolling Stone, I think that's really the best hit, are the 2s. I say it's the best hit because if you play this on 1, Rolling Stone will always be active on 2.
Is it a 1-cost card or a 1-cost spell?
Card. 1-cost card.
1-cost card, okay.
Yeah. And it's just if the last card you played costs 1.
Oh, okay.
So. And then Whirlweaver, Tara Creeper, Static Waveform, Reef Walker, Radiance of Ajara.
That's still in standard?
Yep. It's a Naga.
Ajara.
Or, sorry,
Ajara
it's
water.
Ajara, yeah, okay.
right. It's an elemental, but it was,
Yeah, okay.
And then Frostfin Chomper and Ashen Elemental, which is probably the worst of the 3s. So pretty limited pool. And I think there are very few, like, really bad hits. And there are some that are quite strong. Like, having a 25% chance of hitting Glacial Shard off of this is pretty good in the 1 spot. And then another 25% chance of hitting Arcane Artificer.
Did you account for the amalgams?
I did not.
So
Okay.
you have a stake in there
20%.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess just like if you are looking for some extra value, or certainly if there is an elemental deck down the line,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
it's a lot of stuff. And Submerged Space Rock is something that I think got better with going down to 4 set. That's something that's going to be going in my Light Show deck because there aren't actually that many arcane spells. And so hitting certain things is going to be really, really nice. And even if you can't play them, I think the shot of getting something quite playable off Submerged Space Rock is kind of worth it. And Prismatic Elemental we've seen is pretty decent. Discover a spell from any class, it costs 1 less. Like that has been seeing play. The only 2 that I think is really terrible in this instance is like Mana Geode, because
Yeah, it's
Mage can't overheal. But, Nimbus, you get another one. Spirit of the Tides is mediocre, but you can, leave up a mana so it grows. I think it's definitely a lot of value for a 1 mana spell that is for sure going to fill out your curve. It's just, is Mage going to be having a deck that is about that thing of just like playing stuff on curve?
Yeah,
That isn't Mech Mage.
or some elemental
'Cause
synergy, which we don't
I
have
think-
now, right? Like,
I think Mech Mage is probably going to be gross on release.
I expect both Mech Mage and Mech Paladin will be pretty solid. Yeah.
yeah. But I
But
mean,
we
this
won't
is-
see them
this
in
is,
theory
like, something-
crafting because there won't
But
be
No.
enough.
Yeah,
Need 10
but I
cards.
mean, like this is something you probably just get out of Vast Wisdom, I guess, right? Like that's like the use case for, like, you're not put like you have to have a good reason to put this in your deck. Like even in a 4-set meta, like you have to have a reason you want 3 elementals, and I just like, even like, yeah, like if you really want Glacial Shard, you could just throw Glacial Shard in your deck. Yes, I understand you're getting the 2-drop and the 3-drop also, but like you kind of, it's still taking up a slot in your deck that's not irrelevant in a 4-set meta. It's just a little bit easier to find room for borderline cards like that.
But I don't know. Mage has had some weird combinations recently that just revolve around playing a bunch of minions and Frozen Touch. So
It's
it may find its way.
It's kind of like you can just make a stew whatever you got. This is a perpetual stew of Mage. The pot is Frozen Touch, and you just throw in minions, and just the
It's more of
flavor
like a
changes.
gazpacho, I guess.
Yeah, it's cold soup.
Yeah,
I get
cold
it. I
soup,
see
yeah.
that. Yeah. So,
That's probably a sign we should wind the show down, isn't it?
but I do have breaking news. I have breaking news from Gallon. I see a lot of discussion about us former pros loving Rogue, especially centered around that one Rogue legendary from Murder at Castle Nathria. I just want to say it's all true, and your fears are correct. I did make Halkias.
Okay.
So, for those of you blaming the meta dominance of Secret Rogue, you were absolutely correct. Former pros pushing Rogue. For those that do not pick up on as much sarcasm as I can muster in audio form, this is extremely sarcastic, and Halkias is a bad card. But you knew that already. And I think that's a good indicator of when it's time to wind the show down. So, we have many folks to like to thank. Check out the thanks section on the website, coinkatid.com. Find our contact info, show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinkatid. By following us on Twitch at twitch.coinkatid.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinkatid.com. Write into our email at coinkatid@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinkatid. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coinkatid. Like some CC swag, heading over to our new shop at shop.coinkatid.com. Now updated with lower prices and, unfortunately, longer shipping times, but also a bunch of new items. Be aware shipping times will take a while, but the prices are lower and the stuff is cool. Shop.coinkatid.com. Big thanks to our producers.
I got my shirt this weekend, and I wore it, and it was very comfortable.
I am glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Doshi K, Crash, Cat, B, Squatch, David Peace, Fade to Black, Wild Lou, Jeremy T, Bottle Cap, Scrumpy Monk, Krebmark, and the Burger Club. Mr. Bungalow and Tito Santana, thank you so much for subbing during the show. Really appreciate it. Coin Concedes, Wicked Good, you go first.
So I am going to coin concede to Tito Santana because while I was playing those few games of Unholy Death Knight the other night, I queued into a Tito Santana on ladder, and I was at, I don't know, 1200 legend, and I know that Tito, when he was working on improving his game, was playing in like the 4,000 to 5,000 range, and then I looked on my friends list, and it was the same Tito Santana, and he has managed to work on his game enough to be playing at close to the 11x ranks in basically little, like, it was this time last month that we were queuing into Edel playing double boat Pirate Warrior. and so that was towards the end of the month last month, and he's really taken a lot of the things that we've been saying in Discord and coaching and whatever to heart, and looks like he's making a really good push for 11x. So, really congrats and good work on, pushing through and putting in the effort and seeing the results from it.
Tito's been doing, he's been on a tear lately.
Yeah.
So yes, big grats.
I did beat him, but I felt bad about it. So
Not bad enough to do anything different.
no, I would do it again. But I was playing on Holy Death Knight, so it wasn't like it took 20 minutes at least.
Well, that's kind of you. Edelweiss.
So I'm just going to go and concede to my wife, or the Edelwife, as some people refer to her. She did a lot of taking care of me, even though I should be the one taking care of her because she's pregnant. I really, really, really hope she doesn't get the stomach bug. But yeah, she was awesome, bringing me things when I needed it because I was pretty much bedridden the whole time. And yeah, so going concede to her, and honestly the rest of my family here as well. My sister for totally understanding when I couldn't go to take care of my nephew, and yeah, just all of them, and my mom bringing me soup and stuff. So
Yeah.
Soup is good food.
it is. Yeah.
Good support. All right. Dave in the Coincancy Discord, he's helping me out with a project, so thank you very much, Dave. Leo, the lead designer of this set. It is his first lead design, and he is extremely enthusiastic on Twitter. And Leo, don't burn yourself out, buddy, because you're doing great work, but also the internet is not known for its kindness and understanding, so everyone that's nice to Leo, thank you, and Leo, thank you for the effort you're putting in. And Dragon Rider, aside from generally being great, she basically did the entire community rating sheet, the Coincancy community rating sheet, which is up as of today. If you want to go rate some cards, she put the whole thing together while I was busy with other stuff today. So, Dragon Rider, thank you so much for taking care of that.
And Dragon Rider's going through some tough stuff she posted today. So,
yeah,
hope it's all the good thoughts to you, Don.
yes. And that's gonna do it. So, keep calm and tune into our theory crafting streams. And if you see us on Ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All right.
Oh man, we were doing so well, and then we talked about Warrior.
I mean, it was a good conversation, and it reminds me so much of the old Priest stuff, where like maybe these cards are bad, maybe they're good, they're very easy to fix and tune, but also people are definitely getting swept up in the rhetoric in a pretty major way. Even though like there might be some justification for it, it's also they design these things a year out, and they don't get to pick when the power infusions come based on community sentiment. So
yeah,
they'll make the cards better if they have to.
There's also a bit of a phenomenon of it being an easy way to get clout on the internet by dunking on Warrior, right? So there's a little bit of that there too.
I mean, last week it was being scared of Rogue, and this week it is being mean to Warrior. What class is going to be up next week? Next week is probably being afraid of Death Knight.
We haven't gotten a good delete Priest chant on Twitter for a while, so I'm sure that's coming.
You think Death Knight is going to tear up the theory crafting? And
well, it doesn't have enough
possible.
new cards, so no. I think that there are going to be a lot of asterisks about, well, the theory crafting stream doesn't get to play against last expansion's Death Knight deck, or if some of the press accounts that don't have the same restrictions end up playing just last expansion's Death Knight with Death Growl, and they just mess people up.
I guess, do like core cards that are in now that weren't in previously count towards the?
I doubt it.
You ask them yourself. I am not gonna aid and abet here. You ask them yourself. Also, I assume that Hero Power Druid will look really good against all the janky slow decks in theory crafting, and so people will complain.
Right, yeah.
Because also the Druid complaints like, oh, why doesn't Warrior get all the armor that Druid is getting, even though Druid has been in an armor class for like years now.
A while.
And it's fine.
Yeah.
And also maybe hero powering every turn isn't going to be the way that you win games, but I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well,
At least they didn't put
maybe
Goms
if you're
back
dealing
in
5
standard.
damage every time, but
Yeah. Well,
And I guess the servers are still down, which is, I guess,
We
good
got
for
to
me
keep you.
good for me getting through the podcast. Not necessarily good for whatever else is going to await me tonight.
there's
but,
nothing
know.
good
Good
about
luck
the
tomorrow,
servers are
Steve.
still down. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
you get to defer the pain. And
Yeah.
while I am personally selfishly grateful that it didn't impact the show, I apologize for the future impact on future
Well,
Steve.
I mean, at a certain point, basically we're just kind of running out the clock until India wakes up at this point, and then they take over. So
Yeah, well, but then you have to wake up and you have to, the fire department will show up and then you have to come in after and assess your lost valuables.
well, yeah, I'm like Serve Pro, right? Like I have to come and clean up the mess.
Yes. They did a movie about that with Amy Adams. It's great. Sunshine Cleaning. Where she starts a business with her friend of cleaning up after dead people.
Oh,
Like
I'm
people
thinking of
dying.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That's a
No,
very
different movie.
Very different.
Yeah.
Also,
Is the Tetris movie out now, or is that tomorrow?
I'm sorry.
Oh, Edel, I forgot about your
Think of a
bubble.
film.
Yeah, it's the movie about loosely based on the story of how they got the licensing rights to Tetris.
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Not actually like Tetris pieces falling from the sky in like a disaster movie or something.
It's a
Okay,
Cold
that
War
makes a lot
drama.
more
It's a Cold War drama with Tetris as almost a MacGuffin as for a reason why this guy is in Russia.
Okay.
It's
I'm-
I think
I'm still
they're
way
trying
more-
to.
It makes more sense now, but I'm still gonna go see D&D
Well,
instead.
Yeah. Well, this is on Apple TV Plus anyway, so it's not even like you
Okay.
have to go
Yeah.
anywhere. But and it also led to my 13-year-old saying, "What does Tetris have to do with Russia?" And I said, "What are they teaching you in school?"
Yeah. Apparently, so the tone they were shooting for with the Tetris movie is like social network, geopolitical legal thriller. So like I don't know, seems interesting. Also, the reviews in Dungeons and Dragons are at 89%. I did not expect that at all. Oh, my weekend's gonna be miserable.
Oh,
I'm
no,
sorry.
that's not good. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
An
in advance.
infectiously
it actually looks
good-spirited
good.
comedy with a solid emotional core. Actually, this
Like-
weekend isn't even the dangerous one. Next weekend, which is going to have Super Mario.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
they've
'cause
been
that's gonna
giving
get-
out free tickets to that like candy.
The promo has been so much for D&D. I think because of concerns that it would be bad, because the
Yeah.
last one was real bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting our theater chain is selling D20 popcorn buckets.
Oh wow.
They
That's actually
will.
pretty cool.
Cool, cool.
I'd be surprised if we had any tomorrow. I assume they'll all
Yeah.
sell out tonight.
Oh, that reminds me that Maureen went to Lush and got the Mario and Luigi shower gel. Because
Why?
they're doing a promotion with the Super Mario movie. So the Mario apparently smells like lime and pomegranate, and Luigi smells like green apple. So they actually don't smell bad, though.
I'm sorry.
They're
Mario's a plumber, right?
I did not think that that's what an Italian plumber smells like, but I'm not the one making the sense to sell. Though apparently there are no influencers who are posting pictures with the yellow question mark bath bomb because it turns the water in your bathtub yellow. So it looks
Uh-huh.
like you're sitting in a bathtub full of pee. So that seems like it certainly is a choice. But she didn't get those. She just got the shower gel. There was like a Princess Peach something or other too that she passed on. But
Yeah. See, I'm excited for the D&D movie because it is a heist film, which great choice. And somehow they managed to get like all these crazy actors. Like the male lead from season 1 of Bridgerton and oh god, why am I cannot do names today. I blame it on being sick. But British actor who was in Love Actually. I guess that's a lot of
Kate
them.
Grant?
or,
Played the Prime Minister. Hugh. Hugh Grant.
Grant,
Yeah. Oh no,
yeah.
I think we were talking over. Yeah, Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
Hugh Grant is in it, and the male lead who plays the bard is also. I feel like I get them mixed up.
Chris Pine?
Pratt. Chris
Chris
Pine.
Pine.
I always mix those two up.
The one with the blue eyes, not the one that is Mario.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So very
And
excited.
then
for
you
that
then
one.
you can go order the magic secret lair or whatever it is that has
No,
Hugh
I'm not
Grant
gonna
on
do
it.
that. No, I'm saving my store credit for any boxes of the Lord of the Rings thing that are left because I have a stupid amount of store credit, and so I may as well gamble.
Oh, you're trying for the one ring.
More realistically, for one of the other rings, one of the elf ones or dwarf ones or human ones.
There
What?
are 13 of those, or 7 or 5. Yeah, there's more.
Well,
Yeah.
add a couple zeros, but yes, I think it's like 300 of the elf ones, 700 of the dwarf ones, and 900 of the human ones.
Probably better that they didn't do lore accuracy. Oh, so they took the number in the books and they multiplied by 100. Okay, that's
Right.
Mm,
probably better
Yeah.
than just doing single digits.
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'll get 1 to 2 boxes with store credit if enough remain, because I can't get them with store credit like the first weekend.
Yeah.
So
What's ironic is that they're only doing those in the collector's edition, which means that somebody's going to have the one ring and never know it because they're never going to open it.
well, so that's what's interesting, right? Is like the sure investment would be to just get the box and let it sit and then like resell it in X number of years. Yeah. Or you could be impatient like me and just open them.
Well, yeah.
If you want it, the value of having it is more than the value of selling it. Theoretically.
Those are wise words.
Yeah.
That's deep.
It's,
Or maybe I'm just tired.
it can be both. I think both things can be true.
I don't even know what the value of that card will be like as soon as it's found, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Black Lotus just sold for what, 650,000? So
I mean,
What?
the One
I-
Ring.
I thought we were at like 50 still.
No.
there was just an auction like a week or two ago.
It's pretty exponentially increasing, and the One Ring is like, there is only one of them, but is also a modern card tied into another property. I think it's going to be a
Right,
different
yeah.
kind of ball game, but still, it will be expensive, but also it will be bought by someone that wants to show people that they have it, as opposed to a Black Lotus, which you buy for... There are all sorts of reasons to do that. That can be one of them, but it's probably not the main motivator. No, I don't know.
$615,000. That's how much it sold for.
Pretty good. Solid.
And maybe I can make that much for my oversized one that I have on my wall.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't
probably
think
not.
that's how it works.
Inverse scaling. Inverse
Yeah.
proportions. All right, chat. We're going to log off so I can go eat some leftover pizza. We ordered pizza
Mm,
yesterday,
pizza.
so yeah.
Mm.
Bye,
Do you have the
everybody.
spiced pudding?
Bye.
Bye.